Men's radio. That should be lowercase. Men's radio station. Hard to believe, but yes, it is 12 o'clock on a Sunday. You still in bed? That's outrageous, and quite frankly, I'm a little bit jealous. My name's Russ Kane, what's left of me, and welcome to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk, and frankly, some people sulk. Joining me in the studio, boy wonder producer, the man who rocks the decks all the time with us on Men's Radio Station, James Blake.
The magical hand that you always see on Facebook.
That's just the hand. Because, to be honest with you, he's probably too handsome and he would just hijack the whole show. And sitting in with us, making a rare personal appearance above the scenes rather than behind the scenes, Dennis. And Dennis and I met in the lift. Well, we didn't just met, we've probably been working together for some time, but Dennis and I met in the lift at Covent Garden.
This is the first time you ever
No, I didn't
Dennis.
just turn around to a random stranger in the lift and go, hey, I got a good idea. We're running a radio station. Why don't you come in? He went, yeah, okay, I got nothing else to do. I was going to go shopping. Nonsense. Welcome, Dennis.
Welcome. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, always. But Dennis is always here, by the way, but he's very low-key and stays in the sadly deserted green room.
The ghost town of a green room.
The ghost town of a green room. Because the big news, Mrs. B, the goddess of the green room, has not joined us today.
She is...
In other words, James's mum. So, yeah, I know. It's just like the BBC. It's uncanny, isn't it? You honestly thought you were tuned into the World Service. So where might she be, James? Your mum?
Mum had a...
I'm not putting him on the spot. Had a prior engagement. So she's sitting in her kitchen sulking. That's what she's doing.
Essentially what she's doing. Very much matching yourself.
Well, I'm not sulking. I'm just upset. I'm disappointed. I feel like I've been brutally slapped in the face by fate.
Mum is, shall we
This is
say...
cracked up.
You'll get used to it, don't worry, Dennis.
It's okay, Mum is what?
I would say Mum
is... Is she wearing her cocktail dress just because it's a Sunday, like she always does when she comes here?
Of course, you know she is. You know she...
Yeah. Would she be wearing the cocktail dress? There'll be the Union Jack tea cozy. Everything's laid out. But it's not here.
It's... Unfortunately, don't bang the desk. It is in Her lovely home in North London.
North London somewhere. Location 32, the High Street, above the kebab shop, Edgware. Right. This week is Mental Health Awareness Week. And as you know, on men's radio station, and indeed on women's radio station, our whole ethos is to deal with and only look at well-being. That gives us a pretty big umbrella to look at stuff. What makes you feel good? It's about health. It's certainly about mental health, about depression and all sorts of things. And I have to say that boy wonder James is being only 13. It's amazing he came up with this. He said, "Well, I think we should talk about for the first half hour or so, before our guests come rocking up, body image." And it's a very big subject. So as you dreamt it up, James Blake, kick it off.
Well, I mean, this is Mental Health Awareness Week, and the whole theme of the week is sort of body dysmorphia, body image. But I feel like something that definitely we talk about a lot here at Men's Radio Station, even just amongst ourselves off the air, is body image. Mm-hmm. You know, we're always sort of wondering, do I look okay? Is my weight okay? You know, how should I dress for certain things? How do I come across? And it's just something that I really feel like.
Hang on. Well, that's another thing. That's a whole other issue. How do I come across? We can deal with that. But it's very interesting. You're talking about body. I mean, Dennis. Joking aside, like you and I are always saying, we're always constantly dieting, which drives us both. Both you do and I do. You get a bit lax. And I try not to get lax because I've got a lot of stuff coming up. Dennis is like as slim as a reed, so obviously we hate him.
Yeah, but I eat a lot. I've got a good appetite.
No, we already said we hate you. Now we loathe you.
Thanks.
Almost as much as the Icelandic singers yesterday, but not quite as much.
We're just coming out hot today, aren't we?
I don't care. I don't care. But Dennis, you're always immaculate. I mean, seriously, you're always immaculate. You're quite a peacock the way you dress. Oh, by the way, if you're wondering, we're talking of peacocks, where Phil the gel hair, Phil Dave is. Phil Dave is, where is he? Israel, Eurovision. You join the dots. I'm not even going to go there. Anyway, he seems to be having fun out there, so that's the main thing. I don't suppose he voted for Iceland then. I'm guessing. I'm going out on a limb here. Phil Dave from North London. Did he vote for up? No. Did he try and kill him? Probably.
I don't think they'll be getting far out of Israel, I'll tell you that.
They'll get out. How do they get in? All right, so Dennis, body image. You're so slim. And yet you're saying you eat like a horse.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's probably genetics because my mom is also slender, and ever since when I was a kid, I keep on eating, but I just don't gain weight. So I think I just have a good metabolism.
Who's that? Oh, it's Dennis's phone. Dennis is off because Dennis Dennis has many duties here on Men's Radio Station.
He has to do his actual job.
Now, interestingly, one of my relatives is a big expert on body image. She goes around lecturing about it. It's a huge, huge problem. And I'm surprised that was the main thing about Mental Health Awareness Week. Was the main thing was body image, not depression?
That was,
anxiety?
One of the... I feel like body image can lead into depression and anxiety. You know, if you're not comfortable with your body image, you might start getting anxious, you might start getting depressed, you might start feeling more uncomfortable. I mean, it says here, higher body dissatisfaction is associated with a poorer quality of life, can risk unhealthy behaviors and psychological distress. So I feel like the whole, the overarching thing is body image, and then it's all the tendrils that come down from it.
Did you swallow a thesaurus this morning for breakfast? That's really good. Tendrils. When was the last time anybody listening to Men's Radio Station, when the hell was the last time you heard the word tendrils? Right. If you want to join in, 0203 290 4411. That's 0203 290 4411. You going to do it?
Say the magic words and it will be done.
Just press the button.
0203 290 4411.
You wouldn't know, judging from his brutal sarcasm on Facebook, that David Mindle's actually a good friend. And David Mindle, who lives in France, did all our jingles. So if you love them, it's him. And if you hate them, his name's David Mindle. Right, so one of the problems I see, and we come to this theme all the time, James, is social media, which absolutely screws the world up if you're not careful about body image. And at the head of the list, I put those plastic fantastics, the Kardashians, and all the rest of these people who just muck stuff up.
One thing that, when I was sort of preparing for this week's episode, one thing that occurred to me is that I think body image is all about being accepted, isn't it? If you think it's
by whom?
Well, just I think maybe, you know, by people you're trying to impress, by the general world, by the general like of society. And it's funny, I think body image comes a lot. It's really is. We could talk a lot about it, because I think there's the way your body looks health-wise, but it's also the way you dress. It's also the way you come across, isn't it? Body image. And it's, you know, sometimes you meet someone and you see the way they dress and you think, oh, maybe they're having a bad day, or you know what I mean? Or you think like, oh, look, they're really like powerful, they're wearing a suit and tie and they're coming across really strong, or it's like they're wearing track pants and an unironed t-shirt.
Anybody we know, James? Anyone?
No unironed t-shirts here.
I'm so buying you an iron for Christmas.
But that's kind of, it's weird. That's one of the things, and it comes into social media as well, because I feel like, you know, you go onto these social media profiles, forget the way they look, you know, how do I say this?
Just say it.
Like naturally. Look at their clothes, look at the way they dress, and, you know, if you're a child or a young adult or even an adult, you look at that and you think, am I not dressing correctly? Do I need to change my style? Is this what's in trend?
It's all about being comfortable with yourself, and it's always about this notion of, do I care if I'm accepted or not? Me, I couldn't give a monkey's. I don't care, but I've got to that stage in my life that I don't care. So if I'm happy with it, I'm cool with it, and if you don't like it, jog on. I don't care.
Do you not think that's body image though? Feeling comfortable with the way you look.
It's absolutely all part of it, but I think that the youngsters, especially girls, really suffer from this, because I think the pressure is ludicrous. The pressure is absolutely insane. I mean, you know, what is the average diet of a runway model? You know, it's Marlboro Lights and black coffee.
Black coffee and an apple, right? Famously said by someone.
If you can eat the apple, otherwise it's just black coffee and Marlboro Lights, and we won't go anywhere else with all the other stuff which will make you lose weight. That comes out of Colombia. So, you know, it's not fair for people living a normal life, getting up, having breakfast, having kids, going to work, sometimes holding down 2 jobs, running around, keeping the house going, all the things, all the pressures of real life. It's so unfair to see people that are cited as being aspirational, but it's not realistic whatsoever, because all they have to do, especially, it's just something I feel very strongly about. You know, every time you see a chat show, I avoid chat shows. Oddly enough, I'm doing one tomorrow on TV, but normally I avoid them like the plague. I don't watch them. But
what chat show are you doing?
I'm doing London Live tomorrow morning. Oh. Yeah, thank you very much. They wanted me in to publicise my novel, The Gatekeeper. But I'll come back to that another time. What I do feel sorry for, when you're watching a chat show, and they wheel out whatever latest film they're on a PR junket to do. You know, it's all part of the contract. They have to turn up at various chat shows around Europe to push whatever movie they're flogging. That's what it's about. And you see some of these actors, everyone goes, aren't they mums? They have one job. That's their job. They have nutritionists. They have personal fitness trainers. They have stylists. They have all of these people, because what's their job? They got to look fantastic. When you get to be a great actress like Maggie Smith and Judi Dench, you're not looking at that. But when you're in the complete jungle of Hollywood, where you're only as good as your last movie or your toast, and all these women vying for attention, etc., that they have to look like that. But it's unfair on women or on anybody else. You think, well, I don't look like that. Well, of course you don't. You don't have a personal trainer. You don't have a personal nutritionist. You don't have your own stylist. You don't have a gym at home.
One thing you touched on there is it's the team around these people to make them look that way. Mm-hmm. Chris Hemsworth, who I don't know if you know, he's the actor that played...
I know, yes.
Oh, I don't know, you know. Us kids with our cool stuff, you know, our Avengers.
We have 21-year-old sons. If you don't think I know every freaking molecule of the Avengers, all 8 million films in the genre, you must be mad. There is nothing about the Avengers you could ask me that I wouldn't know. Plus, I've seen all the films myself.
Well,
great.
Did you know this about the Avengers? So Chris Hemsworth recently put out I think it was an Instagram post with a picture of him with his shirt off on set for the Avengers, and then I think it was a couple months after they finished filming, and you could see the difference. And he said, I want to thank everyone in the left image for helping me to achieve this body. And like this great big list of, I had this nutritionist, I had this personal trainer, I had this, and he's like, this team of people helped me achieve this look. And then he said, in the other picture, this is how I actually look.
He seems like a great guy. He seems very, very down to earth. He seems very grounded. I mean, it's the same with Hugh Jackman, who apparently everyone who's met said is just delightful. And the thing about it is, again, when he's all, I was going to say jacked up for playing like Wolverine or something, and he's ripped, and then you see him and he's debulked and all the rest of it. I mean, these guys go into training for months before a movie. Months and months and months. And so anybody, I mean, literally anybody, if you had that great big team and it was that focused, you would look like that. But our point that James and I are making is unrealistic. And if you agree or you disagree, or maybe you're Chris Hemsworth, 0203, can you imagine? Hi, I'm Chris Hemsworth. 0203 290 4411. I mean, Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt's another one.
Chris
as well.
Pratt, when he was in Parks and Recreation, he was played the kind of overweight dummy, and then Chris Pratt suddenly is like this superhero guy, very cool.
He's another person that if you go onto his, or if you even watch interviews with him, he talks about the unattainable beauty standard that he had to achieve to do his Avenger films, to be a superhero.
Yeah.
He talks about how, he had a fitness regime, he had a diet regime, he had a whole staff of people that helped him look like a superhero. And I think that's the thing you have to remember with body image, is that these people, they're trying to be a superhero. You know what I mean? It's this mythical thing.
And bear in mind, you're talking billions, not millions, billions of dollars of revenue globally for these films. These films and these images have to be perfect. It's also the same for TV adverts. And I wonder, a Dove beauty, what are they, soap and stuff like that, aren't they?
Skincare,
Dove. Yeah,
and stuff like that.
So when they were doing, I'm sure it was Dove, and they just got normal, whatever the word normal means, women, right, to pose. And some people, this was absolutely great. And other people, mainly women, because it's not aimed at guys, other people thought, oh, this is no good. I don't want to see this. This isn't what I don't want to see this on an advert. I want to see Helena Christensen, or I want to see Kate Moss, or whoever it might be. I don't want to see real-looking women with all their their curves and bumps and all the rest of it. So it's all a conspiracy in the real sense, not in the secret squirrel sense, by advertisers and product makers and manufacturers and PR companies and style. It's all lumps together, which is why you do have this dysmorphia about body image, which is James's point today.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. So now let's take the next step. We've spoken about the top of the rung, the celebrity, these people with these unattainable beauty standards who have a whole industry behind them to get it. So now let's talk about the people that respond to that. Let's talk about the average person, me or you, who, we watch Chris Pratt in the Avengers and we think, wow, look at that body. Why? And then, that's when the negative thoughts start to occur, isn't it?
Does it?
Well, you think, look at that body. Why couldn't I look like that?
Because I'm a realist, and I know that I'll pop into Pret a Manger and probably grab a sandwich, which I shouldn't do, but I don't. I mean, I look at every calorie thing, etc. It's done well. Yeah, I've lost a stone. What the hell?
And you look great.
Never forget who pays the money. That's what I love about it. But it preys on the more vulnerable, on the more susceptible, because I think you get to a stage in life when you get comfortable literally in your skin. This is who I am. I'm pretty comfortable with it. Can I improve it? Yes. Will I improve it? Yeah, I will do something about it. Do I think I can end up looking like someone from the Avengers? Of course not. Of course I can't. I'm way too old. My lifestyle is impossible to that. There's things you can do, but you're never going to look like that. But there are people who, you see, and then you're going to get into this whole of the cosmetic surgery stuff, which is just a complete freaking nightmare.
We'll get onto that, but it's so you talk about how you're comfortable. You know,
comfortable-ish.
Comfortable-ish. I mean, bear with me, Russ, but for someone who's still trying to form their image of who they are and what they are, I feel like that's, you know, like you said, that's the more vulnerable person.
Very vulnerable.
And that's
because they don't know yet, although they think, I mean, especially young teenagers, men, boys, girls, men, women, you know, you don't know who you are yet. You think you know who you are yet. Your hormones are raging. You're inexperienced in life, although you think you're very cool and you know it all. You know absolutely the square root of sod all. That's the truth of it. And yeah, you can be easily led.
But that's what I think is the problem with body image right there, is that you don't know yet what it actually means to have your image and who you are. So then when you get shown these things, you know, it's like you said, when I went and saw Chris Pratt in the cinema, I thought, couldn't I look like that? Isn't that amazing?
Because in parks and recreation, you're not huge. I'm joking aside, and I'm not being in any way rude, because he's not fat. He was just not sculptured, as the boys would say.
He wasn't a superhero.
No, but you know, that was a part. You know, if you had to say, you could do that. You know what I'm saying? And I could see that. But did you feel dissatisfied? That's the point with yourself.
Yeah, I felt like, if you know, why can't I look like that? Why is it I'm a little bit tubby? Why is it I'm a little bit overweight? Whatever, you know. Whereas he is, you know, this sculpted. It looks like one of those old Greek statues, you know what I mean, of just muscle.
But he's got to.
And that's what worries me about body image, is that negative cycle of, you see this person who's, you know, it's totally fake. Like we said.
Why don't you say, why can't I fly? Or why can't I run at thousands of miles an hour like the Flash? Or why don't I have a shield that I can use on the London Underground and it'll protect me like Captain America? You know, you can you can extrapolate that to any degree that you want.
But that's the thing. And if that's something that people could take away from this conversation, is that when you see these films and you see these supermodels or whatever, it's like, watch the film. Just because he looks like that, it's like, well, you're going to have an Iron Man suit as well, you know?
Well, that's exactly right. And you know that the hours of makeup, the other thing, and I've always said it, and it affects women, I think, more than men, is that when they're doing anti-aging products or hair products or any of the, let's put it under the bracket, beauty products, they always choose a model who's probably not 18, 19, tops 21, 22 maybe. And you're aiming this product at women in their late 30s, mid 40s. How unfair is that?
Well,
you're never going to look, if you're in your mid 40s, you can look fantastic, but you're never going to look 18, 19, 21. It's physically, biologically impossible. See?
I do agree with you. You can't have like these underage models selling these beauty products.
But they do it all the time. Of course they do.
Don't you feel like it's becoming a thing for men as well now? I feel I feel like I see more like anti-aging ads for men.
Well, there's a lot of anti. It's a huge industry. But you know, even though I take loads of vitamins and stuff, I know I'm not going to wake up, look in the mirror and think, oh my God, I'm David Gandy's double. I'm going to get mobbed in the street. They will think I am David Gandy. No, of course they won't. I'm just looking in the mirror and see me. That's it. You know, take it or leave it. This is as good as it's going to get. I can't change that.
I'm going to pretend I know who that is.
David Gandy. He does the Wellman adverts. He does the Marks and Spencer adverts. He's a ridiculously handsome looking guy.
Yeah.
He's on posters like everywhere. I can't think of any other male model. I don't.
He's dreamy.
You are really getting worrying. You are really getting worrying.
Without a certain green room person here, I feel like, you know.
You can say what you want.
I can say what I want.
Because your mum's not here.
Exactly right. It's like the
Do you think your mum would be barging in now, going, James?
Little head would be poking around the corner.
Yeah. But she's not here.
She's not.
So I'm
here.
not bigging her up.
I hope.
I'm so not bigging her up. And if you're listening, Deborah, I'm not bigging you up. 0203 290 4411. Russ Kane chatting with James Blake before our guests arrive. We try to dice and slice it a little bit differently here on the men's radio station at the moment. And we thought the first The first half hour or so would be a conversation, normally with Phil Dave, but Phil's, at the moment outside the Iceland entry for Eurovision, just going, "Oh, you guys, you're just great."
You definitely did the right thing. How do you reckon his hair's holding up? Speaking of body image.
If it's hot and humid, this could be a huge problem for Phil the Hair Dave. I mean, as his hair is like, it's the most complicated hairdo I've ever seen, because it's kind of 75% normal, and then at the front is this huge kind of pompadour Marie Antoinette construction, like a beehive of curls. I don't know how else would you describe it? It's just like
a beehive of curls is a very good thing, and to bring it back. But that is his image. That is who he is.
He's always like that. That's his thing.
That's his thing.
Shtick. Right.
But is that a bad thing, or is that a good
thing?
Because
it's Phil Dave. He can do what he wants. It's his hair. What difference to us? Why is it a good or bad thing? I don't think those attributes can apply.
But would you? I mean, we all love Phil, and we love him because of who he is. But he wouldn't be Phil without that body image, or would he? Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it'd still be irritating. It'd still be really annoying. No, I've known Phil for many, many years. And would it be him? No, it's part and parcel of who he is. But he'd still be the same guy. It wouldn't change his personality. Would he be so recognisable? No, because you can't. Once you've met Phil and you see the crazy hair, then you won't forget. If you see him again, you go, "Oh, you're Phil. I remember you."
I'd have to disagree with you. I don't think he would be Phil unless he had the hair and the outfit. I think that is who.
Oh, you didn't say the outfits. You're just talking about the hair.
I'm talking about the image of a whole of Phil Dave.
He has a very distinct image which he has cultivated for many years. He's an absolute dandy.
Great style.
He is very stylish guy, and he's a dandy, and it was almost my favourite. We were having a production meeting. Yes, we actually do have meetings, can you believe it? And it was boiling hot. We were in a back of Patisserie Valerie before they went bust for 20 million quid that suddenly disappeared. What was all that about? Anyway, and it was really hot, and Phil was wearing a black velvet suit with a thick shirt and a black velvet waistcoat, and he was sweating, and the perspiration was on his, pouring. I said, "Why don't you take your jacket off?" He says, "Because I look blank hot." He didn't want to ruin the look, so he'd rather sit and suffer for his kind of art. Has this week, do you think helped? Have you seen anything that's actually helped?
If you ask me that question next week, I will tell you the answer, because this week all that I've seen is people raising awareness about it. I haven't actually seen any action so far. I've seen lots of information about body image and being comfortable with who you are, and how body satisfaction and appreciation have been linked to overall well-being, and stuff like that. However, I haven't actually seen much action, to be fair.
What they have to overcome, and I'll tell you this, it's never going to happen. You can have as many shows like this as you like, and as many editions of Woman's Hour as you like. You will never overcome the power of social media. You'll never overcome the huge pressure like those twerps, the Kardashians. I say twerps, they're billionaires. I mean, literally, not millionaires, they're billionaires. It's unbelievable. They are so powerful, and as stupid and as irritating and as talentless as you may think they are, one, they are richer than God, and two, they are hugely influential and hugely powerful. Do I understand it? No. Don't get it at all. I don't get it. I think they look ludicrous. That's just me. I am in a minority of one, and tens of millions of people think they are the bee's knees. So who's right, who's wrong? Clearly I'm wrong and they're right, but that doesn't help body dysmorphia. I'm Russ Kane, in conversation with James Blake. You are listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk, coming at you absolutely 100% live from the centre of London in Covent Garden, and waiting in the wings in the now kind of deserted green room. I'm not going to let this go, James. You got 3 hours of this. Will be our very first guest. We'll be back just after this.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of Starter Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Starter Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Stouters would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Hello and welcome to a brand new show coming very soon to Men's Radio. I'm Sandro Forte and I'm really looking forward to chatting to some fabulous guests, all of whom will be sharing insights into what made them hugely successful or simply what they did to overcome some of life's challenges. The 40 hour is going to be interactive. Please do call in and speak to us, as well as insightful, inspirational and educational. So don't miss the 40 hour coming really soon to Men's Radio.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Thank you for joining us. I always say that, and thank you for letting us join you. I'm Russ Kane. We're at Men's Radio Station, coming at you live from the centre of London, because I know people listen all over the world. All over the world! Nicholas Parsons making a guest appearance. I've been so looking forward to my next guest coming in. I really have, because, and this is very weird, but don't jump to any wrong conclusions. I normally only see him at 3 o'clock in the morning. No, he doesn't work for Deliveroo, and when I get peckish, no.
If I did, I'd get more money. I know that for a fact.
You'd get more money, and you'd be even more popular if such a thing was possible. We've managed to grab him. He's busier than God at the moment. I think God's a way of taking a break. Paul Gannon, welcome to Men's Radio Station.
Hello, thank you for having me. How are things?
They're good, thank you. It's really lovely when you get a pro in and immediately they know how to address the mic.
Well, I always say hello, Mr. Mike, before we get started.
Hello.
That was
very old
possibly the worst. Yeah,
let me just give you the skinny on Paul. Paul Gannon, writer, producer of podcasts and YouTube shows. He almost and sometimes appears in them too. It's the Economy. I love this. The Economy Comedy Podcast Cheap Show. Just makes me laugh. To the retro gaming surrealism of YouTube's digitizer. This is a guy who creates unique and passionately made program. Also has a background in stand-up comedy. We'll be the judge of that. And radio production. So you're asking, why do I meet him at 3 o'clock in the morning? No, we don't hang out in some louche bar in Soho.
Despite the fact that I've asked to hang out in louche bars in Soho with you.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Fine.
Only because I don't do louche.
No.
Because I might get hooked on it. And...
Hey-o.
We meet at BBC Radio London, where Paul is a producer from time to time. And so 3 o'clock in the mornings when I rock up there, feeling full of the joys of spring, said no one ever. Paul, talk about... now, we've gone from a sort of heavy conversation about body image and dysmorphia and all the rest of it, with James Blake, boy wonder producer,
right?
But and the Bolt pose.
Did you just dab? Was that a dab?
No, it's the Usain Bolt.
What's a dab?
Dabs.
Oh, it's very, very subtly different.
Sorry, what are we doing now?
He's dabbing.
What's a dab?
This is cool kid stuff, Russ.
Yeah, come on, Daddy-o, get with it.
This is what the cool kids do.
Cookie, lend me your comb. Right. So, the reason that I'm delighted you're here is because under well-being, I put in comedy and feeling good, because I think that, and I really do believe this, having a laugh, enjoying yourself, and releasing those endorphins when you're laughing and having fun is very much part of well-being. I don't see it as a sort of strange little adjunct. I see it at the centre of it, having a sense of humour, etc. So tell us what you do.
Oh, so do you want me to start with the podcast stuff?
No, start wherever you like. This is the beauty of the deconstruction of men's radio station.
I'll say this. Even though I got started in stand-up, it was a means to an end. So, oh, God, where do I start? My life is so weird because I can see it in chapters, very defined, separate chapters.
Is there like a preamble chapter? Think of it like a book. Like The Gatekeeper, for example, available on Kindle, Amazon.
Is that one of his books? Is it one of his books?
It's my new book. Yes, my new book. And did you like the subtle way that I just sledgehammer it in there?
I mean, I don't think you can use the words subtle and then sledgehammer in the same sentence. But So I got started in student radio back at university. There's your preamble. There's your prequel, right?
Prequel. Okay,
and I got a love for radio from there. But then it kind of dropped off for 10 years because I got married and moved to LA and had a very strange and different life.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How come we've never discussed that you moved to LA?
Because you're only awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, and your first thing you do is you open the newspapers and complain about everything you see.
Well, of course, who wouldn't? That's my job.
Exactly.
That's my job to infuriate the listeners by saying, "Can you believe this?"
Yeah, but that's
and they all phone in, going,
What's different than usual? Isn't he always complaining? I thought
just the time of the day. That's the only
It's a different time of day.
So there's not too much time for bants when I'm at the back end of a radio show.
But you're manning the phones, which are going. People go, does anyone actually phone the BBC at that time? It's frantic.
Yeah, and it always
Paul
happens
is like bouncing and it's like a tennis game. It's frantic there.
Yeah. So anyway, lived in LA for a little while, on and off, back from here to London, and then divorce. And then life goes crazy for a bit, and then I got into stand-up, and stand-up was a means to an end, so I could meet people in the industry and other stand-ups and other comedians and writers. And at that time I was writing for like Radio 4 and shows like Dead Ringers and bits and bobs.
You wrote for that?
Yeah, on and off.
One of my most favourite shows possibly of all time.
I think
of modern times, definitely.
It was like season 1, 2, 3, and then 8, 9, 10, something
John
daft like that.
Shaw, Jan Ravens, and everybody.
All those.
Fabulous.
Yeah, so that was nice. And then
You're doing sketches for them?
Yeah, so topical stuff. I was a non-commissioned writer, which meant I wasn't part of the official team, but I could turn up and help write, and they had to take 2 minutes off me every episode or something
Did
like
they?
that. Something like that. So whether they recorded it and it went out is a different issue altogether, but the idea is that, you do get 2 or 3 minutes worth of material that they have to take off you and use in some respect, whether that goes out or not.
That's what's so interesting. I had a weird experience last night. I went to...
Oh, do I really want to know this story?
No, you do want to know this about writers.
Yeah.
No, I never go to dinner parties ever, and I was invited to one. It's a friend of mine who's been living in Los Angeles for a number of years, and she's coming back, and we had dinner at her home. I've never met any of the other guests before. And I get in conversation. The guy suddenly said to me, "Did you used to write for TV years ago?" I went, "Yeah, I did, yeah." He said, "Did you ever write for like Russ Abbott and all those?" I went, "Yeah, I did." He said, "Do you know that all your work came across my desk?" I nearly fainted. It was so long ago.
So you wrote for Madhouse?
I wrote, yeah, I did.
Can I ask a question, actually, because I'm actually interested in this?
Go on.
Were you part of Freddie Starr's Madhouse?
No, I couldn't. I know people thought he was a joke. I couldn't bear him, and there was people I just wasn't interested in writing for.
Yeah, because it was in. I mean, my
I had no interest in writing for him. Sorry, I know people thought he was great. I couldn't.
Well,
bear
no,
him.
because this is the interesting story about it. Because it was originally Freddie Starr's Madhouse, wasn't it? And then it all went wrong, and so Freddie Starr quit and went, "Russ, you can have the show. I'm off." And Russ took over and made
Russ
it what it was.
Like the nicest man you would ever wish to meet.
And a great drummer.
He's a brilliant drummer. He's a charming guy. I did panto with him twice. And he's so embracing and inclusive. And he's got no ego, which is amazing. He said to me, which is wonderful. I mean, let's talk about comedy for a sec. It doesn't matter who gets the laugh for us. If you get it, if I get it, all that matters is the audience is entertained. He was so professional.
Yeah, I think that's largely true. So I got writing for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then And then I did a solo show, funnily enough, around 20, oh God, again, because it's another chapter of my life. So I had a massive, horrible mental breakdown, which led to a suicide attempt, which obviously didn't work out because I'm here now.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, I did funnily make that joke in my show where it was like, or did I? Is this a sixth sense? But
Is this a seance?
I see. Hang on,
the real
hang on.
trick?
I see dead comics.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen a lot. I've seen more people die on stage than needs
Lee Harvey
be.
Oswald. Yes.
Yeah. So I had that moment happen, and then I went through all the therapy and the CBT and things like that. But it wasn't until I had 2 revelations with my therapy that really made me kind of change the way I look at my mental health. And that was that one therapist said, the problem with you, Paul, is that you find depression and sadness comforting. You see it like a comfort blanket. If you don't have it,
really interesting.
If you don't have it near you, you're suspicious of good luck, you're suspicious of fortune, you're suspicious of everything. The only thing you're comfortable with and know is sadness, and I embrace it. And once I kind of that twigged, it was like I have to therefore now push that away. And when I spot the signs, I've got to try and do my best. It's easier said than done some days because it's an ongoing battle. But that was the first thing that made me go, oh yeah, that's a good point. I do. I'm only happy when I'm sad.
That is
which is the bitter irony of it all.
Do you know, Paul, that is one of the most important things, I think. And how many weeks have we been going, James?
20.
20 weeks today.
Big 2-0.
And I think that...
Show's over,
yeah,
really.
we're almost like the Archers. That is probably one of the most important things, personally, that I've heard. Because I so utterly relate to that in an enormous way. I think that's why we had a sort of simpatico thing going on at the Beeb, even at 3 a.m. It's really interesting. And then the other thing that happened...
So the other thing was I went to see another doctor, and, you know, there are loads of different... Everyone's unique when it comes to dealing with mental health. I don't like the idea of saying, this worked for me, it'll work for you. I kind of find that a bit toxic in its thinking. But this doctor sat me down and went, so let me get this straight. You're in a job you hate. You go back to a room that's tiny, that feels like a cell every night, and you don't have much of a social life. And I was like, yeah. He goes, maybe you need to pull your finger out and do something social. And so I at first I was like, well, I'm not going to do sport, and I'm not going to the gym. You can sod off with that. I'm not doing any of that. Yeah. But then I realised, why don't I try and do the one thing I've always wanted to do since I was a kid, and that's go ghost hunting. Because I was a huge fan of Ghostbusters, love Most Haunted, Ghost Adventures, all those kind of stupid, horrible reality TV shows. And I will preface this by saying, I don't believe in ghosts.
But you want to go ghost hunting?
Exactly. So I started doing it. And so every other weekend, I'd go out and I'd join these groups and I'd take part. And from 9 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning, I'd spend the night in a haunted location, an asylum, a hospital, an abandoned crypt.
We have got so much to ask you now.
And then that turned into a career for 2 years where I became, quote unquote, a professional ghost hunter, which led to a theatre show called Psychic and Science, which is basically Most Haunted live on stage. And then that led to my solo show, which is about all these adventures and all these things that happened to me. And even though that was a really rich experience, it did lead to me doing Edinburgh in 2012, which was probably the second worst experience in my whole entire
I'm doing
life.
It this year.
It's all right. You're going to probably do all right. I had for various reasons a very, very horrible time, and that knocked me back.
Why?
You
don't. By the way, we have a golden rule here, Paul, at Wins Radio Station.
Don't swear.
No. You can do what you like. I don't care.
Nice.
That's not it. We're not BBC. Somebody's not going to come rushing in, slap you with the rule book 3 feet high. I know it's this that we ask a lot of probing questions, but if you don't like it, just don't want to answer it, and that's absolutely fine. It's not John Humphreys, I've asked you, so you got to answer.
Well, no, I mean,
what happened that was so horrid?
Well, honestly, it was like I kind of bit off more than I could chew, because if you're a stand-up comedian and you want to be on the telly or you want an agent, by and large, the thing is, you get known on the circuit and you build towards a show and you take it to Edinburgh and you beg, borrow and steal what you can to be seen by who you can. So I put all my time and effort and money I didn't really have into going to Edinburgh, and then I found out, because of it's so competitive, and because Edinburgh is a con, I think, by and large. I think the only people who benefit from Edinburgh Fringe these days are landlords and pubs and the Fringe themselves, from all the ticket sales, like £400 to get into the guide, all these kind of things, and then the rent goes disgustingly high. So I think lots of people are exploited for the sake of this Fringe, and I think I fell into that exploitation because I found myself in massive amounts of debt afterwards. I slept on a park bench for half of the run, because my flat fell out at the last minute because someone offered her more money to have the flat, so therefore she went, you can find somewhere else now. I found out how many stand-ups actually gave two tosses about my life, because when I was like begging for somewhere to stay for a night, a lot of them didn't want to help. And it was just all these things like that. And obviously the course of the show, I lost a lot of weight, and the stress and flying all by myself and all these horrible things, that by the time I got to the end of that 4 weeks, I was kind of done with comedy, with everything. And so for another few months I was in a really bad state. And to fast forward a few more months, the girlfriend that I just started seeing said, London is killing you, you know. I know you want to be here for the comedy scene and the exposure and the media and things like that, but you've been here 13 years and you're not happy. So I'm going to move to Southampton. Why don't you come with me? And I was like, but I've got no friends. I don't want to start again from scratch. And she goes, just try it. So against my better will and judgment, I went and moved to Southampton, which for anyone listening in Southampton, I'm sorry, but I don't like it. It's fine for what it is, but it didn't excite me at all.
If you're from Southampton, cover your ears.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You know, it was just one of these places where I found myself wondering what to do with myself on a daily basis. But the upside of that was, through a complete fluke, I got a job in radio for a Celador radio station called Sam FM. And I got that because on spec I'd sent an email off to them saying, if you need anyone to make coffee or, you know, file a cabinet, I can do that. But what happened was the programming manager, this guy called Steve Sims, looked at my CV and went, oh, you've worked with comedians, you've produced live comedy, you know how to deal with stand-ups. And I was like, yeah. He goes, we've got this stand-up, Paul McCaffrey's got a breakfast show. Why don't you come in and produce his show and deal with him and make him radio ready? And then after that, we'll find you bits and bobs. And so that led to me doing a podcast because I had access to the radio studio, and I listened to a lot of Kevin Smith podcasts and Earwolf podcasts, and I was inspired by them. And then that became Cheap Show, and then that led into doing UKRD. So I moved to Cambridge, and then BBC Cambridge, and then BBC London. So it's all...
What happened to the girlfriend?
Long story short, we...
Did she stay in Southampton?
always asks the important questions.
Well, I'm suddenly thinking this whole romantic thing, you know, trust me, and there you suddenly you land a pretty good job, and...
What basically happened was we stayed together a few years, but she decided she wanted to do another thing with her life, and I didn't want to go with her this time.
Well, mountaineering is not for everybody.
No, it's not at all. But she went to Glasgow, and I decided
that is worse than mountaineering.
Yeah,
even scarier.
Scarier. And more risk of broken bones, I think.
And,
but long story short, we just broke up. It was mutual. It's more like a kind of resign.
It's all right. I'm sorry.
No.
You can
I know, and I will when it comes to my sex life. But since I don't have much of one, we're all right there.
That's for the after-hours show. This is the lunchtime.
Is this the late
show.
night one?
No, this is late night. Now, there are so many weird things that have come out of what you just said. Number one, and this is not a tangential plug. Obviously, I've been talking about my book's out, just coming out now on Amazon.
Gatekeeper.
It's called The Gatekeeper. But the central character, who's called Nick Gold, is dubbed as TV's paranormal detective. I had no idea you'd done all this. No idea at all. So suddenly I'm sitting almost with a character that I completely dreamt up, because he hated the job. He went for the wrong one. He goes to an audition. He thinks he's going for like a DIY thing, and he's in the wrong room at the audition room. And he gets this gig.
Okay.
And he is TV's paranormal detective, and he thinks it's just absolute garbage and doesn't believe anything. So I'm fascinated that you said, I don't believe in ghosts, I don't believe in the supernatural, but I went ghost hunting.
Yeah. Because if there's one thing I love, it's like scratching at the surface of weirdness.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Well done.
I'm attracted to offbeat people and offbeat things
James,
and strange.
Hi, James.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Welcome to Men's Radio.
And so ghost hunting was part of that, because growing up, most kids go, oh, superheroes or Star Wars, and that inspires them. For me, it was the film Ghostbusters that really inspired me, because I always had a dark kind of sense of humour, a kind of fascination with ghosts and monsters and ghoulies and all these kind of things. And so Ghostbusters was perfect for me, because it was kind of like a realistic take on ghost hunting to some extent. You know, it wasn't completely unbelievable. It starts off reasonably grounded as a film, these characters, and then it kind of grows into this phantasmagoria towards the end.
Ghostbusters is a great film.
It's a beautiful film, but it's I mean, don't get me started on Ghostbusters, because I can talk nothing but that.
Okay.
But it's a victim of its own success in many respects, because what made it great made it also impossible to recreate in sequels and spin-offs.
Was that one of the worst loads of cack. The
What?
second film.
You know what? It's funny. I go back and forth about Ghostbusters 2 because it was my first experience going to a film and being let down by something that I watched. I was only like 10 or 11. But you know how some people go, oh, I went to see Phantom Menace and it ruined my life.
And
it's like, nah, it didn't ruin your life. It just made you sad for a bit because you didn't get that same feeling you got from watching Return of the Jedi or whatever.
When
you know?
my son, Kate, he had built himself up for Batman versus Superman. Ooh. This was going to be the biggest thing. He came back. He was in a mood for days. Days. I'm seriously.
I don't care for superhero movies by and large. Nothing against them. They just don't tickle my fancy, right? Uh-huh. But coming out of Batman versus Superman was like coming out of a really dark, depressing play. You know, when you just come out of a really intense piece of theatre and you think, God, no, that was bad.
You think the world's such a horrible place. Yeah,
it was like, here are two characters that are meant to be fun and exciting and bastions of power, and they spend the whole day murdering and killing, and it's all in dark. And I was like, I didn't expect this from a Batman versus Superman movie.
It was awful.
It was sad.
Something that really bothered me about that film is the fact that they destroy the city, and I'm like, you're superheroes, aren't you supposed to be protecting the city?
No,
it's like, no, we're just going to tear it down.
You got to smash it up.
They're self-centered.
It's spectacle over everything else. And you know what? This goes on another little tangent. It's like you compare the blockbuster of today to the blockbusters of yesterday, and it's like comparing extreme. It's hard to explain. It's like comparing the Second World War to a schoolyard fight, because you look at Back to the Future and then think nothing happens in that film for 90 minutes, and then there's like close edge of the seat kind of scene. It's like it's nice. Ghostbusters, nothing really happens in that for a good hour or so.
The last bit of the film.
But these days, if your film doesn't start with 2 explosions and a city razed to the ground, then you haven't done your job. What are we talking about?
About well-being.
Oh, ghost hunting.
We were talking. Now, did anything happen?
I want to. Yeah. Did you find a ghost?
I found. My problem is I'm, an atheist, so I don't really take much belief in being good because you might get something in the afterlife. I find that a really bad excuse, a very bad reason to do good deeds.
Correct.
So I don't see the afterlife. I don't see death as something that I'm scared of. I don't want it to happen anytime soon. Don't get me wrong, but I don't dread it, and I don't peer into what happens afterwards. But with the ghost hunting thing, it was like a chance for me to live out that childhood fantasy, right, of catching ghosts and running around. Yeah. And so I met people who swear down, hand on heart, believe they've seen something and experienced something, and it's not for me really to sit and sneer. One example I can use is we were at this ghost hunt, I think at Widley Fort in Portsmouth, I think it was, and there's a woman there, and she goes, it's her first time ever doing this kind of stuff, but she's asking all the right questions. She wants to know, she's asked the psychic and these guys, ghost hunters, what does this do? How can we do that? How can we talk to people? Fascinated by the whole process. And then I overhear her talking to a friend during a break, and she's talking about how her husband only has a week or 2 to live, he's dying of cancer, and she's doing this because she wants to know he's going somewhere afterwards. And again, that's not my time to tap her on the shoulder and go, it's all bollocks though, right? Because that's how she's dealing with it. And so for me, it was the experience of just meeting these people, going to these places. I learned more about the history of this country from ghost hunting than I ever did in school. Weirdly, because you go to these places that are steeped in history and give you a different context of British history.
And obviously ghosts are all to do with the past as well, aren't they?
It's a way of telling stories. It's a way of keeping history alive, I think, ghost hunting. It extends into folk stories and folklore.
Precisely. Did you have any experience that you thought, that was a bit weird?
Yeah, loads. Loads of things I can definitely say I can't explain. But I am loath to say it's proof of anything. So we did this show called Psychic and Science, and it was basically Most Haunted Live, but on stage. So audience would come and see a show, and we had a psychic and a ghost expert.
Love that. What a cracking idea.
It was.
Write that down, James.
But let me just say this. The poster was written like this. It was called Psychic and Science. The word psychic, huge, and the word science, very, very, very small underneath. So you can see. You can kind of see what it was airing towards. But we did this one show in Inverness, and it was in a theatre connected to a church built over a graveyard.
Oh, God.
And beautiful place. Inverness, beautiful place. It's like a little mini Edinburgh, I like to describe it as. But
it's way out there, isn't it?
Yeah, way up there. But we had like 600 people in this show, enjoying it, and then we're doing a Ouija board and seance. And again, I don't approve of.
I wouldn't touch a Ouija board.
Oh, I would. It's balls.
I wouldn't touch one.
I would never go near one.
Yeah.
Which is fair enough, but I've done my fair share now to know and done the research to know how
yeah.
these kind of things work. But we're doing this Ouija board, and my job as the host is to stand at the side and kind of keep things in context and keep the show moving, and every now and then call bullshit on stuff I don't think quite works. In this instance, we're on the stage, and I'm standing at the front, and just to my right, just to the back, is where the Ouija board is, with a few people from the audience, and an overhead camera, and they're doing all these things.
This is a hell of a good show.
Yeah, well,
seriously,
it was interesting.
Great.
It was an interesting show. Some shows were utterly awful, and nothing happened, and some shows, like this one, was actually quite active. So, during the Ouija board, to boil it down, this girl came through. A little girl, lost her brother, dies potentially on the spot where the theatre is now. She's reaching out, all these little bits and bobs. She likes to play. Apparently, as we found out much later, this ghost girl has been seen in the theatre. But we did notice at the time, because we go in blind.
Oh, I'm getting spooked now.
So, I'm on stage, the Ouija board's happening, and then someone asks a question. And then I hear this voice go, la, la, la.
Oh, no, that is scary.
And it sounds like a little girl singing, you know?
Yeah.
And I stop the show and I go, okay, am I going mad? Did anyone just hear a girl's voice? And then 600 people all started going, yeah. They all heard it. And then I went, okay, all at once, can you point to where the sound came from? And 600 people point directly at me. Right?
Oh my God.
And I remember, I'm on the front of the stage, people are low down, so wherever this voice is, it's kind of hovering somewhere, it's just out of reach. Now, usually, I don't record the show because I'm forgetful, and I have all this recording equipment, and I very rarely use it because I forget to turn it on. But in this instance, I had turned it on. And so I went, all right, so I got the recorder out, rewind it a minute or two, put it against the mic, and played it back. And bold as brass, you can hear that.
You can actually hear
this voice go, la, la, la. Craziest thing. Can't explain it, might have been an owl. But in that moment, it was just genuinely interesting to be in a situation where I can't explain it. Everyone experienced it at the same time. It kind of correlated to what we were doing. But again, I can't prove that someone in the crowd didn't make that sound.
Yeah.
I can't prove that it wasn't some bouncing off the walls thing. All I can say is it was strange.
Well, the skeptic in me says you're in a theatre or you're in a movie studio or whatever it is. I mean, like, there's got to be 100 different things that could have made that sound.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean? There's got to be like different switches. Maybe it was just an oily thing that sounds like a laugh or something.
It could be anything.
It could be anything.
So
but
I obviously went, let's put this into context. But at the same time, you do exploit that for the drama of the theatre of it all.
Of course.
Which is nice. And then another instance, again, most of this stuff is audible for me. I've never seen anything. Mm-hmm. The closest I had to seeing anything was a very weird experience where I was in an old abandoned hospital, and I had this pain in my hand, and it felt like someone was pushing their thumb into my hand. And then when I opened my palm in the pitch dark, or like this little white orb kind of went blip and then disappeared. But it was bright enough for it to light. But it was bright enough for it to light up my hand. But I can't tell you what that was.
all the ghost stories I've heard have been that.
Yeah.
Whenever someone's seen a ghost, they've never seen a ghost. They've just seen like a white blip or something.
Or something.
Or something. They're like, I came around the corner of this old house and I saw this white blip.
Yeah.
It was never like I saw a ghost. It was always
I never
like,
saw an old lady in a cloak.
Yeah, I never saw an old lady in a cloak. It's always like you see this white blip or something like that. But I've never had any. I've never had any ghost stories. Have you ever had any ghost stories? Any experiences with the supernatural?
Yeah. Moving on.
Oh, all right. Well, we can talk about that in private, and I can do my own investigation.
It was very. I can't do it in the time we've got left. It was such a weird.
Well, I'll quickly tell you this other one, which is one of the ones I really like, which is about. Again, actually, I think it was the same Fort Whitley, with the lady with the whole thing with her dying husband. But we're in this room, and Fort Whitley is kind of half built into a cliffside and half hanging out, and I hear this ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-boom at like midnight, 1 o'clock. In amongst the corridors where I am under the ground, because we're underground at this point. And I call up to the booth and I say, is there any fireworks going off? Is there a celebration? I'm like, no, we can't hear anything. And I'm going, can you hear the booming? And she goes, well, where are you? And I was like, well, I don't know. I'm in this room. It's octagonal shaped. It's language. Oh, you're in the armory where the cannons were. You might be hearing the cannons. And I've got, in both instances, that Inverness story and the cannons, I've got recordings of those.
Of the noises.
Of the noises.
Of the like cannons firing and of the girl.
And you can hear ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-boom, ba-boom. Sounds like cannons. Can't explain it, but me and 3 people heard it.
You're listening to Paul Gannon. These stories are just freaking me out completely now. This is why I've gone so quiet. This is the men's radio station contacting you from the other side, where men really talk, and some of us are really freaked out. Be back in a mo.
You're listening to Men radio station where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of Started Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Started Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Starters would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Hello and welcome to a brand new show coming very soon to Men's Radio. I'm Sandro Forte and I'm really looking forward to chatting to some fabulous guests, all of whom will be sharing insights into what made them hugely successful or simply what they did to overcome some of life's challenges. The 40 hour is going to be interactive. Please do call in and speak to us, as well as insightful, inspirational and educational. So don't miss the 40 hour coming really soon to Men's Radio.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station where men really talk.
And welcome back to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk. We're joined in the studio today with Paul Gannon and his ghost stories, and a very, very worried-looking Mr. Russ Kane.
I am a bit freaked out.
a bit freaked out now. I just want to read out Eve Phantom. Oh, says, "My name is Phantom," and I'll just leave it there when I ask for any ghost stories on Facebook. So thank you very much, Eve, for leaving that comment. And
it's a bit frightening.
Is Eve suggesting that she's part of the paranormal community?
I'm guessing
she's a ghost.
Oh, she's a ghost.
She could just be a ghost and not actually exist.
I don't know if
knows?
ghosts are very good with tech.
With a name like Phantom, I'm going to say she's a ghost.
Yeah, but
I think she's a ghost. Well, why can't they be? They could be savvy. They could be, it could be Steve Jobs coming back in another life.
I'm sure I've seen ghosts.
He's dead, but
go
he could be
into
media
computers
savvy.
and phones and take over computers and phones.
But that's movies.
It was Ghost in the Machine, wasn't it? It was all of that sort of stuff. Paul, our guest, is a writer, he's a producer, he does stand-up, he does podcasts, he does blooming everything. It's getting on my nerves.
Yeah,
it's very interesting. I'm going to come back to Ghost in a sec.
Yeah.
But what you were saying about the... and people say, well, what's this got to do with well-being? Because it's hobbies, because it makes you feel better, especially comedy. But comedy is a very hard business. It's not... I know this sounds ridiculous, but see if you go with me on this, Paul. It's not amusing. It's the comics that I've written for have been some of the most depressing people I've ever met.
Yeah.
That is true. And I don't do stand-up. So I do my stand-up show. I do it here and I do it in Los Angeles. It's a 1.5 hour show, although the Edinburgh show's got to be shotgunned. So it's a 55-minute one piece, so there's no intermission. That's okay. And I don't mind doing that. I once, for television, the South Bank show, did a thing which was called it was called the A to Z of British Comedy. And it got to air. Well, I'm not going to go to the full story because you're the guest, I'm not. But I had to do a 5 or 10 minute spot at Jongleurs. And I'd never done it before. And it was all filmed. And it was in my entire professional life, it was the worst professional experience I've ever had.
Okay.
It was absolutely revolting. But one of the things I took away with me, apart from one, never ever to appear at Jongleurs again, even though I know Maria very well, but I think she's sold it now. And she ran into me and she said, "Oh, what you should be doing with your act?" And I actually said to her the other day, I said, "Maria, I don't want to hear anymore. I don't, okay, whatever idea you got, sorry, I don't want to do it."
Thank it.
And she got really upset with me, but there you go. Once bitten, not that dumb, not as dumb as I look. The other now the idea was to find people who'd never done it before and film them. So it was a real trap. I should never have done it, and I was an idiot, and I did do it, and I lost a stone in a week through nerves.
Did you just admit you was an idiot?
I did it because I was an idiot.
Wow, I have that recorded now.
You do.
Dreams have come true.
No. There's a lot of things that I've done. You do it, and you think, why the hell did I? But one thing I really noticed, and you alluded to it in the conversation we were having before the break. I was backstage, really terrified. I'd never done this before. And the other people, there was, I think, 3 of us, they were following around for months, filming us for months. So we could really be building up to this moment. The other professional comics were vile. I don't mean unpleasant. I mean vile.
Okay.
Anything they could do to make us feel even worse, backstage in the green room at Jongleurs in Battersea, they were doing. I was shocked. Now, one of the things about radio, I've been doing radio since 1984, and there's only been one interview that I ever stopped. I'm not going to say who it was, but they were so-called fashion experts. And they said, "You're not enjoying this." I went, "No, I'm not." End of the interview. We had one guest in here where everybody else was freaking out because he was just one of the rudest people we've ever met. We couldn't wait to get rid of him.
Oh, he was fun.
He was horrible. And but since 1984, radio people, they're really very, very nice, and they don't try and trip you up. There's only one guy ever who's now a national figure who tried to trip me up all the time at Capitol.
Sorry, is this therapy for?
No. What I'm saying to you is this.
I know.
But Paul, what I'm saying to you is this: that people from the outside go to comedy for their well-being, but the comics themselves, where do they go? That was my point.
With comedy, it didn't suit me. Stand-up comedy specifically didn't suit me. I tend to find, again, this is partly bitterness because I never really had an agent or who took me on or anything like that. I always felt out on the outside. So there's quite frankly a bit of bitterness here that I will preface by saying it's out in front and it's there. But I never took to it. It was way too competitive. The people, it's weird. It's like, it's very cliquey comedy at times, and if you're not in the right clique,
cliquey.
No,
cliques. I call it a clique.
I always call it a
clique. No, it's a clique.
You're outvoted. Be quiet.
In this instance, yes, democracy reigns. The will of the people.
The people have spoken.
Yeah. Remember, the power is with the desk, and I sit by the desk.
The edit. He's going to edit me going click, click. It just didn't suit me. It can be cliquey at times. So if you're not in the right clique, you can miss out on opportunities and gigs and bits and bobs.
It's not what you know. It's who you know.
To be fair, with most things though, it's like there's a part of that adage which it doesn't impress me, but it's a fact. It's like I know that without certain people in my life, I would not be practically sitting here right now because it's who you know and what opportunities you get from those interactions. But with stand-up, I found it toxic. I was a man dealing with mental health, trying to use comedy as a way to just to spark something creative inside of me and to try and scratch that performer's itch in me. And I've always liked making people laugh. Every time I've done any kind of radio or performance, it's always been comedy. It's always what I fall back to. And I can admit my comedy isn't exactly, Oliver Wilde in terms of its tone or its intellect, but I go with what I know, and basically it's bum jokes and Carry On humour and Bottom and Rick Mell type stuff. That's kind of where my energy and my inspiration comes from. Yeah. I like broad and daft humour. So that was something I loved, but I could never express that on stage because the minute you go on stage, all of a sudden you're not doing comedy for you anymore. And I have to be specific at this point by saying when you're starting out, you genuinely are not doing comedy for yourself. You're doing it to impress the 30, 40, 100, 600 people, maybe drunk in an audience who just want to laugh and maybe tell those jokes at the office the next day. So if you come on and like me, you do a bunch of geek gags or stories about the supernatural, that's not going to connect, because what they want is a story about how you once had an awkward sex adventure.
Or you got drunk this one time.
Yeah, or isn't it funny that this show's balls and that show is... You know what I mean? Like, there's... And then when you get to a certain standing in comedy, then you can start to express yourself properly. And that's when you get the true voices of stand-up comedy coming through. But until then, it's a quagmire of thousands of people desperately
and very, very... Now, I am very broad-minded, and I know I've got a potty mouth, I know that. But I find it repulsively crude sometimes, just swearing as though you're going to shock somebody. Well, you're not going to shock anybody. And it not funny. I mean, the thing about comedy, it's so personal.
Yeah.
So if you find it funny, it's funny. If you don't find it funny, it's not funny. And that's all there is to comedy. There's no other rule.
There's no other rule. I mean, we can talk about taste and tone and what you can and can't say till the cows come home, but ultimately it doesn't get you any closer to just being happy with the tone of comedy and the topic of comedy as it is. But with me, it was just down to the fact that I was doing it as a means to an end, to meet people in the industry, to meet other stand-ups I can maybe connect to, and I have done, and that did work for me. But ultimately, I was part of an industry that I didn't want to be a part of, that basically I found out didn't want me in it. So I backed out and I came, and then I started doing stuff for myself, and that's where we get to the podcasting, because I gave up doing stand-up and comedy and sketch shows, and then I found podcasting was perfect for me, because it gave me what I loved about doing radio since I was 16, doing pirate radio and all these things and all the student radio and all the BBC stuff that I'm doing now. But I could do it without any kind of Ofcom regulations getting in the way. And I can do a topic that's never going to get commissioned. You know, for instance, if I took Cheap Show to Radio 4, they'd never want it. Yeah. Never want it. If I took it, the only way I could get Cheap Show to be on TV or online in some kind of capacity would be to go with Adult Swim or to go with Comedy Central, who deal with niche stuff outside of stand-up. But no, mainstream audiences aren't going to go with most of the shows I'm involved with now.
Well, that's the thing I love about podcasts, really. And the way how it has fallen in with the internet is that there's this beautiful freedom to it. Like, there's so many different podcasts about so many different things, and there's no Ofcom to say you can say this, you can't say that, is there?
No.
It's just like, it's almost just an expression of what it is you want to talk about.
Yeah, and the only real... I mean, Kevin Smith, who's one of the big people in podcasting because of his Smodcast channel and things, he says, and it's quite right, he goes, it's the Wild West of broadcasting.
Yeah.
Because there are no rules, there's no thing, and you can get away with what you want. And what's
no
nice,
wrong or right way to do it either. You can do it however you want.
No, not at all. Yeah. And I think, you know, it's like, it is, you can do whatever you want, but the hard part is finding your audience. Because you could have the best podcast in the world, but if no one's listening to it, then you're either doing it for love or you're doing it because you want to punish yourself. Now, I was quite lucky with my podcast, and I got involved with YouTubers. And YouTubers are, you know, people I appreciate more than stand-ups, because they're constantly creating, constantly doing new stuff. And they work in a bubble, but they also like collaboration, because collaboration brings inspiration and opportunities. And so I got involved with this. And through my association with these YouTubers, that got my podcast, Cheap Show, the attention it kind of was lacking at that point. And we went from... I think in like 2015 when we started, from like a couple of hundred downloads a month, we're now doing, again, this is fast forwarding 3 years, but we're now doing per month like 50, 60,000 downloads a month now. And it boggles my mind. But then I look at it, it was like, it's not a huge podcast like, you know, My Dad Wrote a Porno or, you know, the Rogan podcast, but we've created enough of an ecosystem and fans and listenership and a little audience that we can sustain this. And I'd like it to grow. Obviously, I'd like it to grow, because the more audience we get, the more people give to Patreon, which is what funds the show. But I don't have to go and take it to some producer at Avalon and say, oh, do you like my show? And then make a bunch of 20-year-olds approve of what a 40-year-old man's doing. Which is basically what...
It's 20-year-olds approving of 40-year-olds.
No, but it's very, very, very true. It's really fascinating. I was having a very similar conversation last night, as I said, when I went out for dinner, and with a tremendous writer-producer, I'm not going to say who it is, with a huge track record. And you think, why isn't there the comedy on television, and then what they do is they put on shows which are very badly written because they can shove stars into them, the notion being the stars will carry the show. No, the script carries the show.
But that's the problem with like panel shows, is that they don't have to write a script.
No, it's wonderfully cheap.
It's ephemeral programming, and it's like it's again. This is me going on a rant now about comedy in general, but it's like we have now focused on stand-ups as the primary source of comedy in this country, and it's mostly because of the boom of comedy in the 90s. From remember Newman and Baddiel did their live in Wembley show? Yeah. That changed comedy overnight.
I was born in 95, so
because it. Well,
I liked it when David Baddiel walked on and went, "Yeah, we've played bigger."
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
They were like freaking out.
But that show turned comedy from like clubs to arenas overnight, and it became rock and roll. And then since then, that's what the industry's become. It wants to be like the pop industry in many respects. It wants all
I can't
that.
think of any worse analogy.
But think about...
No, you're absolutely right, but I like
comedy
the
was
pop
sourced,
industry so
But think about how comedy was sourced before then, though. You look at, and it's a very obvious example, but you look at Python, and these are people who worked separately or groups, and they were writing and performing together, and then eventually it all gelled, and then I can never remember the name of the producer when I need to, but the producer brought them all together and went, you should do a show. And they did, and it was Python. You know. Whereas, here's the best example I can show you right now of why comedy doesn't really work in this respect, and why we don't have any decent sketch comedies anymore. The last decent one was League of Gentlemen. Genuinely, I don't think there's been another one since because of League of Gentlemen. You know,
League of Gentlemen.
Yeah,
sorry. Okay.
That was, I would say, that's the last good, great British sketch group. Because since then, they've not been sketch groups, they've been sketch shows. So they've hired actors and other writers to throw things together. And this one story I'm about to say, I think, encapsulates it really well. So a friend of mine was in a really good female-led sketch group, and very funny, very naturalistic, not big on broadness, not big on punchlines, but very good humour.
Just funny.
A production company took them on and went, we love you, and we reckon you'd work great on television, and we're going to get you ready for Edinburgh next year. And over the course of that year, the producer chipped away at everything that they were doing. Bring back that character. Can we do three sketches with that character and get a punchline out of it? Went through the process. Long story short, eventually everyone turned the sketch show down. Fast forward a year, the main girl from that sketch group gets a phone call from the production company, and it goes something like this. So she picks up the phone, the voice at the end goes, so we're doing an all-female sketch group. And she goes, yeah. She goes, do you want to write for it? We've got these 5 stand-ups we've all bunched together, we need writers. And it's like, well, no, because you had a really good sketch group who have a rapport and a history and a character, and you know what I mean? It's like, what was wrong with that? And that's the problem now. It's all what's the best?
It's manufactured, isn't it?
It's like flat-packed comedy. You know.
Do you know? I'll tell you something, and I come back to this time and time again. My mum, my late mum, gave me a great piece of advice, which was, if you want something doing, do it yourself. And so often, you, me, a lot of people in all walks of life think we've got to get the approval and the tick and the this and that, and you'll end up, you know, you want to design a Ferrari and you end up with a bus, which is not what you wanted. Yeah, it's a vehicle, but it's not the thing that you particularly wanted. If you are a creative, and that comes under well-being as absolutely, I really think that if you are a creative, and you are, Paul, if you're so constrained, you start to have the problems. And it's not from the outside, people think, oh, that's ego. It's not ego. It's because it actually hurts. It actually hurts. If you're being told, you know, yeah, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you? And it's like, well, get somebody else. I don't want to do that.
You've clearly not got the right person. If you want to change so much, you're clearly not getting what it is. You know. Does that make sense?
For want of pissing off anyone in the comedy industry who might be listening to this, who might hire me in the future, but whatever. I've long since burnt those bridges. I think the problem with comedy is very young people trying to box tick for networks who want very reasonably safe programming.
Of course they do.
So they can bolster the 1 or 2 risks that they do take from smaller independent companies. But what that means is ultimately we've got a system breeding stand-ups just to fill out panel shows. And how many of those stand-ups could be writing a great sitcom? Or how much money could we have put into the next great sitcom or the next great sketch show, or something new and different?
But the argument runs, and the heads of these big broadcasting organisations say, and again, this came out of this very senior guy just last night, there's no appetite for it. And the argument then goes back, no, because you're providing such trash, such low rent stuff. No, there's no appetite for that because it's very badly written. The whole premise of it is poor. No one wants that. There is an appetite. People say, well, why can't we have another Fawlty Towers? And the great and the good will say, well, there's no appetite for it. People don't want it. If you created a really good show, there'd always be an appetite for it. Or Only Fools and Horses, or any of the classics.
I think the bottom line is, if it's good, they'll watch it. It doesn't matter what it is, right?
If it's good, they'll watch it. But again, that comes with the caveat of, but what time of the day is it going to go out? What audience is it going to appeal to? It always falls into that pachinko machine of like odds and evens of how you get your product from conception to release and how much of it retains itself by the time you get there. And so I think there's generally a lot of great comedy in the UK out there, but unfortunately, like, I think the British public see it as stand-up, and that's why there's no great sketch show right now, or no great sketch group, because there's no temperature for it, there's no tolerance, because stand-up is get in, get out, be quick, like that. We need to pack it all in. Whereas there's no breath, there's no breathing. It's like you look at a lot of Python sketches, and by and large, a lot of them are very bad. But
it's really interesting, Paul, when you look at it now, and I was Python obsessed, I was at school, they were my comedy gods at the time, and then you look at it now and you go, what did I think was so marvellous? What the hell was I going on about?
But it's the 2 or 3 sketches per episode that were the classics that is what you remember.
Yes,
it's the cultural thing that sticks in. So there's more risk to a sketch show inherently. And I understand that, but a lot of people are afraid of that risk. Now, personally, when I go to when I want to watch comedy, I go to YouTube, or I go to Adult Swim, or I go to all these fringe things.
That's what I was going to say. Is I feel like YouTube is now the new platform for like sketch comedy, more like skits and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you can make them quick, get them easy, get them done, get them out the door, engage with the audience weekly, and then improve week by week. You can make it into a reasonably enjoyable machine.
And there's no constraints. It's like you said, that Plinko machine. That Plinko machine doesn't work in a YouTube world. You just make the video, you just put it up there, and
you're in a bubble to some extent. But there's a problem with that, because sometimes just because you're getting 400,000 hits because of your sketches on YouTube doesn't mean it's good. Because like that whole Count Dankula thing with the dog and the Nazi salute thing, that comes out of the whole shock system of YouTube, and people ignore that by and large until someone grabs on it and makes it a new story. Doesn't necessarily mean it was valid. And so there's a thing with YouTube. But the show that I'm involved in, Digitizer, is a comedy show about retro gaming, right? Now, video gaming is the biggest industry in the world right now.
At the moment it is,
It makes more money than Hollywood by a country mile. But no one in TV knows what to do with video gaming. You've got so many people on Xboxes and Switches every day engaging with each other.
The best example of that is there's a TV channel on Sky, which is called because I'm a big video game guy.
Okay.
And there's this TV channel on Sky. It's called Jinx or something like that.
Ooh, yeah.
And you watch it and I'm like, this has clearly been made by people who have no idea what the video game culture is about. You know what I mean? I'm like, there's clearly this board of 50 guys in suits who are like, right, video games the number 1 industry. How do we monetize it?
The thing is, a friend of mine, Steve McNeil, did a show called Go 8-Bit on Dave.
Oh, yeah.
So he's a guy who did a live show, live action video gaming, comedians talking and playing games. Great show, lots of fun. I've done it once or twice. Had lots of fun, but his interaction with Dave got to the point where it was his show, but little by little they were like, we need to take the gaming bit out of this a bit more. And I was like, but that's the point of the show.
Yeah.
And then they cancelled it without telling him, and he found that on Twitter. So that's the industry for you.
Sorry, say that again.
Sorry.
They cancelled it. They didn't tell him, and he discovered on Twitter.
Now apparently it was he was aware that it might get cancelled, but there was no formal email or phone call, and so he just found out that it's not been commissioned.
I really like that show.
I liked it, but again, it got to that point where when me and this guy called Paul Rose, who is known as Mr. Biffo, because he used to run I don't know if you won't remember this, but in the 90s, Teletext had a thing called Digitize. It was like a video games magazine on Teletext, and he became famous for writing for that. Again, I say this a lot, but it's true. Cut long story short, we're working together on Digitize, which is a comedy-based retro gaming YouTube show, but we wanted to make it really good, so we've crowdfunded £40,000 to make it, so we could buy a studio. And we made the last series last year, and it went really well. Again, did the mainstream press want to take it on? It had the production value of a proper TV show. It put all the effort in. Not interested. But on the same day we were launching our first episode of that, some other YouTube channel launches their first episode of their retro gaming thing, and had ladies bumping up and down with bikinis on and jiggling their bits. And that got so much press attention from the video game market. Not because they were like, oh, this is great, but it was like, oh, shock, horror, shock, I can't believe this guy's doing that. And I was like, so we put all this love and attention in, and you're not interested. But this guy does this, and all of a sudden you're making news out of that, which bumped his figures all the way up.
That's the common story, though, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Of what is it? There's that saying where it's like bad headlines sell papers, not good headlines, or something like that. You know, in the papers, it's like if you're a journalist, you want to print the bad stuff. No one wants to hear about your cat getting saved. They want to hear about your cat getting run over. You know,
they always the old trope is they always say, why can't we just have a news section, just good news, and cheer everybody up? And no, people don't want that.
People don't want that.
And yet, I would say, thanks to podcasting, I would say that's the opposite. I think a lot of people tune into a lot of podcasts that do offer alternatives to the bad news out there and a distraction. So many people. I got into podcasting because my mental health was so bad that.
I really wanted to talk to you about this. Only if you want to go there. Only if you,
I'm more than happy to go there. If anything, I like talking about myself too much.
No, I don't think so.
Wouldn't have gathered that after the last
you know, because the whole basis, I don't know if I've ever explained this to you, and I do say this quite regularly on the programme, and we do lots of different programmes. I'm sort of living in the studio now far more than I ever anticipated to. See more of James than I do of my own family. Worrying. Was this. It came out of when I was doing the BBC papers, where you and I first met, and it was the suicide statistics just happened to be released that day, and it was 80% men, 20% women. I thought, oh my God, I can't believe the disparity there. And that was the spark, if you like, to the Blue Touch paper for creating Men's Radio Station. And then we linked up with my business partner, Howard Jameson, and we linked up with Women's Radio Station, which had started a year in advance. We brought them both under the same umbrella, which is all about well-being and mental health. So mental health features very, very heavily on our shows because the notion was people won't talk about it. And here you are, Paul Gannon, and you're willing to talk about it. So big props to you.
It's funny. It's every now and then. For instance, I talked about this on a friend's podcast called Bartians, where he wanted to talk about the ghost hunting stuff. And I told him about, the mental health stuff and how it got me through some bad times, and podcasting was a nice mental distraction. And I think the way don't get me wrong, I still have very, very, very bad days with my mental health. Not to the point where I was 5-6 years ago, but I still have days where I worry, what's the point? Why am I doing this? It's all strain and no reward, and blah, blah, blah. And I have really bad days. But I am at that point now where it's like, but if someone was to ask me 10 years ago, what would you like to do with your life? And I would say, do comedy and do a radio show and podcasting. I'm doing that now. All right, I might not have all the millions coming in that some people do, but to some extent, I'm living my dream. So for me, when it came to depression, I realised that part of it was that comfort blanket thing of depression, and also the fact that I wasn't engaging in reality anymore or people. And so I just needed to keep busy. And so what keeps me the wolf from the door is again, doesn't work for everyone. Everyone's different. But for me, I've just got to keep busy, because sometimes when I have those moments of pause, the little dark black wolf creeps in.
I'm like you. If I'm not busy, I start to think. And if I start to think, I don't want to go there. And I push myself crazy hard. I know that. And because it's, I shocked James and my fellow broadcasters, because we were talking about success and everything. And I said, well, I don't see myself successful at all. And James looking at me like I was joking. And Phil Davis, and they go, what are you talking about? I said, no. It depends what your definition of success is. Now, what is crucial to well-being and mental health and well-being is, you said, kind of, you're doing everything you wanted to. If you were being paid, $100,000 a year for it, you'd be thrilled. You're not, let's be honest, any more than I am. But are you still satisfied?
Yeah. Because, as I say, so many shows that I did were rejected by audiences, and so many things that I pitched to BBC were ignored. And now I'm making a podcast about exactly what I want. I'm doing a YouTube show about exactly what I want. And to some extent, I'm doing exactly what I want right now. Again, I just wish it paid more, but that's a societal matter rather than a mental health one.
If you put that...
Yeah, exactly.
My point is, if you put that to one side, which I know is ridiculously hard to do, because you have to pay the rent, you have food on the table, and all the rest of the stuff. I live in the real world. But if you could do that, you don't always have to equate success, and it's a fight I have, Paul, I'm being honest, with money. Success can be, I've done this and I'm happy that I've achieved that. Maybe it hasn't given me the reward. How do people get hold of you? How do they watch your stuff?
Anywhere.
Plug it away. No, plug it away. You got under a minute. Plug it.
Easily. On Cheap, I do a podcast called Cheap Show Economy Comedy. We look through Poundlands and bargain bins and charity shops for things that are wonderful, not just horrible things in life. We look for wonderful things. You can listen to that by going to thecheapshow.co.uk, or it's on Spotify and iTunes and anywhere you can get a podcast on your phone. You can follow me on Twitter at Paul Gannon Show, Gannon. And I'm there being quite chatty. Other than that, I get about. I'm on a YouTube series called Digitizer, which is a comedy-based retro gaming show. It's a bit odd, and I wear a number of ridiculous outfits, but you can enjoy that. So Digitizer, Cheap Show, and at Paul Gannon Show.
Quickly before we go to the advert, just before you mentioned that your, I want to say therapist said that you need to get out there to improve your mental well-being, and that's when you started the ghost hunting. Do you think it helped, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, it did. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
You're listening to Men Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of Started Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Started Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Starters would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Hello and welcome to a brand new show coming very soon to Men's Radio. I'm Sandro Forte and I'm really looking forward to chatting to some fabulous guests, all of whom will be sharing insights into what made them hugely successful or simply what they did to overcome some of life's challenges. The 40 hour is going to be interactive. Please do call in and speak to us, as well as insightful, inspirational and educational. So don't miss the 40 hour coming really soon to Men's Radio.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
You're listening to Men Radio Station, where men really talk.
I'm Russ Kane. This is Men's Radio Station, where men really talk. That's our strapline, because that's what we believe and we breathe it. Rocking the decks, as always, boy wonder producer James Blake. And we're joined in the studio by Paul Gannon, who is just a polymath, I'd like to say.
That's the first time anyone's called me a polymath.
Well, I think nice. So, because you do a lot of stuff, and you do it well, and you enjoy it, etc. So, mental health is something that we and thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it, because I know you've got to do more radio. What it is to be popular, James. A feeling you'll never know. So, mental.
It's all right. Being popular is really overrated. It means more people want to talk to you, and I can't be doing that.
No, I can't be asked. I can't be asked. Just let to my own business. So, your mental health. Are you conscious of monitoring it on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
Yes, but what I will say is this. So, again, I need to preface this with this only works for me, and I don't recommend it for other people.
That's fine.
Because again, I think it's a very unique thing if you're going through mental health. If you want to get the therapy or the help, you have to fine tune it to who you are and what you want to get out of it. With me, I just decided that when I have a bad day, I'm allowed to enjoy, quote unquote, that bad day. I'm allowed to revel in my depression for that one day. But the catch is that I have to promise myself tomorrow I'm more productive. And so that's my trade-off. So if I have a bad day tomorrow, I don't want to get out of bed, fine, I'll wipe that day off. I'll stay in bed, I'll moan, I'll be miserable. But tomorrow, the day after, I've got to get X, Y, Z done.
Now, when you have a bad day, 'cause a lot of people really do struggle with this, and I think what we try to do is shine a light on it. And if they can get some help or a glimmer of hope or just to see a little way out, then we've done our job. When you have a bad day, does that really mean you metaphorically or literally you can't get out of bed?
Oh, literally can't get out of bed.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's you know what? It's funny. The problem with depression is it's a bit like talking about hay fever, in so much that you can't compare hay fever to cancer. You can't compare hay fever to much, much worse diseases or illnesses. But depression is an illness. But when you describe the symptoms of like, oh, I can't get out of bed, or all I want to do is watch TV, you think there are people dying in the world, mate. But that's not the point of the symptoms of depression. It's the sickness and how it shows itself in you particularly. And some people are more self-destructive than others. So when I have a bad day and I go, oh, I just couldn't get out of bed and I hate myself and I couldn't look at myself in the mirror and I just wanted to smoke all day and not leave the house and talk to people and avoid phone calls, you kind of feel, oh, God, pull your finger out, buck up. You get a lot of that from people. Pull your finger out.
And just... My answer to that is, it's like a mate of yours says a broken leg and you go, Terry, what? You got a broken leg? Yeah. Run around the room, you feel better.
Yeah.
And you can't do it.
No, you can't
so
do it.
unless you've been there, it's so easy on the outside to say, Paul, what's the matter with you? You're doing all this work. Pull yourself together, man. Stop being a wimp. Get out of bed.
But again, through the therapy, through my conversations with the doctors and things, it was like everyone just needs to find a way to make it manageable, to make it work. So I haven't taken any antidepressants in years because the side effects of them were making me more miserable on a daily basis.
Not a big fan of the
I can't remember what the first thing I was on, but the second thing was citalopram. And that really numbs you. I was on quite a heavy dose, and there were days when I felt like
how many milligrams? If you don't mind me asking.
I really can't remember now. It's not because I have blanked it. It's just I generally can't remember now. It's gone up and down over the years. But a few years ago, I just said I need to manage this myself without drugs. And again, preface this is how I dealt with it. A lot of people need and rely and entrust those drugs, and they work for them. Please carry on doing that. But for me, it was like I can't have this feeling in me anymore because it's stopping me.
What was the feeling that you had?
Numbness, and also vomiting every day because I had the side effect where it would make me ill.
The nausea.
So so the nausea was not a great thing to have on a daily basis.
No, and you weren't pregnant.
No.
So here's the thing: when you say numbness, explain that.
It was like. Have you ever been in a situation where you know you should cry because you're at a funeral or you're watching a sad film or someone's getting married and people think, and you just can't tap into that part of you? And it feels like you've tuned out of your emotions. Yeah. That was what it was like for me. It was like, I know I should be angry right now, but I can't get there. I know I should laugh at this or find amusement in this moment, but I don't care to engage in it. Or I know I should be crying. I just can't be arsed. It was that weird sense of like almost emotional ambivalence.
And is that from taking the citalopram?
That was for me.
That was for you?
That was just for me. Because I don't know, other people, again, have it. My girlfriend's on citalopram, and she needs it. And I would never say to her, get off them, I got off them. Because it's still tough for me. But I just went back to the idea of if I wake up on a really bad state, or like give yourself that day to be depressed.
Just have
give yourself a day to, not revel in, but basically, the symptoms.
Which is something I want to come back to.
The progress you've made is that at least you can recognize it, and you can say, I'm having a really bad day. I'm going to acknowledge I'm having a bad day, but, and here's your strength, Paul Gannon, you're saying tomorrow I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to be like this for weeks and weeks and weeks, or months,
because I've spent weeks and weeks and weeks like that, when nothing happened and all that happened.
Were you able to be creative in that state?
No. And this is the interesting thing. I was coming off the citalopram just as I was starting to get into radio work more. And I found that getting up at 3 a.m. to do the breakfast show or staying up late to do overnights was interesting because it was making me get out of bed. It was making me engage in other people. When you work in radio, it's a people medium. You're talking potentially millions, but I really, like Terry Wogan says, you're only really talking to one person.
You're talking to one person.
And that's the person you need to engage with. And so you put all your effort.
For the one person.
You just put all your effort, though, into a clear, fun, potentially interesting conversation, which you can do more on some radio stations than you can on others because, that's the way of the world. But for me, it was like I was lucky enough that I found something to replace the drugs. Some people don't. Some people might not be able to. But for me, I was lucky enough. Because I just think the way my brain works is that I've got to be doing 10 things at once. And it's probably worse for me in some respects, for anxiety and stress. But that's a different conversation.
Everyone's different, though. It's like you say, everyone's different. Everyone works in different ways. It's funny how with the citalopram, I can't even say citalopram, thank you, Russ. The symptoms you described, that is almost what people describe depression as.
It can be.
Numbness, that like I can't cry, I can't be angry. So it's funny that the drug would give you that.
Well, my depression was all the tears, all the time. It's like if that was Depression FM, that would be my tagline.
All the tears, all the time.
All the tears, all the time.
That was their old thing at Capitol. All the hits, all the hits, all the hits.
Yeah,
all the hits.
and I was just overwhelmingly sad and grieving and emotional all the time. Everything was so again, for me, exaggerated. If I was in a good mood, I was overly in a good mood. But if I was a little bit sad, I couldn't just be a bit maudlin. I was absolutely
just sad, yeah.
You see, I'll share something with you, which comes back to our earlier conversation about Edinburgh. I was asked by the agent, would I go and do the full month? Mm-hmm. And I knew, for my own health and my own well-being, that would be a disaster. I knew I'd never make it. And he said, well, could you do 2 weeks? I said, no. I don't want to be away from my dog. I don't want to be away from my partner. I don't want to be away from home. I don't want to be in that environment. I would do 11 shows back to back. It's like 10 days. That's absolutely fine.
Bad enough, yeah.
That is great. And I will enjoy it. And I'm going up there with no expectations. And, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I don't care. I've done it.
Yeah.
And I will enjoy it. And I will go and embrace the experience. It'll be fine. Mm-hmm. But if I thought I'm away for a month, because when I used to do theatre, and this really does come back to you, Paul, it's actually not about me, but it's about monitoring yourself. When I used to do theatre, I loved being on stage. We did 9 years of Panther. There were huge shows taking millions at box office, all the big stars of the day. But waiting in my dressing room drove me nuts. I couldn't stand it. The just sitting, looking at the breeze-blocked walls, because I have to be active.
Yeah.
And the boredom and the repetition and the whole thing. Oh man, I get
down on Sunday as well. I get down on a Sunday before we, especially Sunday mornings. I'm at home and I'm pacing. I was like, I just want to get there. I just want to start pressing the buttons. You know what I mean? So it's
because joking aside, you enjoy what you do.
Yeah, and it's that need to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
That need to be busy.
But again, like a lot of people listening to this will completely not be able to engage or empathise with what I'm talking about because their depression is more tranquil or more serene. You know what I mean? Because there are different types of levels of depression. So I imagine that someone out there might just need to go fishing to help them with their depression, or some people might need to go for long walks. Help me considerably,
massively.
Walking my dog has been so beneficial in so many ways. Weight control, calming my mind, having time to think, getting out. It's marvellous. And also, absolutely marvellous.
And what was the other thing as well? There used to be an analogy I used when it came to my depression where I'd consider depression as like putting a record on, and the first track is, something really sad and blue, and that's when I'm locked in. I'm locked in that groove, and it keeps skipping the track. The way to get out of it, I just need to nudge the record a little bit and then move it on to the next track. And so that's why when I go for a walk or whatever, I'll have a podcast on or a purposely made playlist of upbeat tunes, because just that process does change the chemistry in your brain, does change the chemistry within you
massively. And that brings me on to something I wanted to ask you earlier. So you said when you have a bad day and you're like, right, this is just a write-off, I'm going to embrace it.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing to do, is just to sort of embrace it and to be like, look, I'm going to take it. But now, how do you pick yourself up the next day? How do you wake up the next day and go, right, today I'm going to be
It is
productive?
Easier said than done. But it's about not giving yourself too much of a hard time. It's not about punishing yourself. So if I have a bad day today, but tomorrow I say, right, I've got to send those emails and I've got to do that and I've got to do that. If I at least tomorrow, send the emails, then that to me is a step up.
That's a
It's
victory,
a step up in the right direction. If I haven't done the other two things, I'll get it done the day after. It's just about giving yourself those little allowances, but at least you're doing something. And then hopefully without knowing it, you're doing a lot, or you're doing something
else. The turning point for me, it's so interesting you said that, Paul. Because we got on, it's weird, I didn't think we'd be chatting so deeply and so fascinatingly because because
I'm me.
Because you're really just boring, to be honest with you. The thing is this, instead of looking for the big, like the big success, I got to have the big... I learnt to take enormous pleasure in very silly little things. And those little things add up. And I think sometimes we whip ourselves so hard that we haven't got this, that, and the other. And it's like, being pretty happy with what you got and looking around saying, well, I'm not living in a tin shed, and thank God I got all my limbs and this, that, and the other. So being grateful for that is always a good thing. But little treats, and I do mean little silly little things,
they get you through the day,
can really add up. And so I think, James, if you would ask me that, if you've had a really bad day, how you do the next day, one is I write a list. I now have to write a list. And as Paul said, if you've sent that email, if you've done that, if you've done this, the other, as I go through my checklist, I think, you know what? I'm achieving something.
That's it.
Today.
Do you
I'm actually achieving something.
Do you not think, though, that... I mean, I write the list as well, but to play devil's advocate, do you not think that the list is almost saying, like, oh, I've got all this to do?
No, you've got to do it.
I'll tell you why. Because
I've got this mountain to climb.
It's not a mountain.
Well, no, this is the thing. It's like... A friend of mine goes, oh, you're doing this and that and that. How did you change your life so incredibly? And I was like, no, it wasn't one big change. It was 1,000 tiny little changes. Yeah. And that's the way you got to look at your life. Look at the list. It's not about going, oh, I've done that list, and therefore I've achieved, therefore I'm happier now. It's about the fact that if you really want to change your life, hopefully in a positive way. It's not about making massive changes in your life. It's not about changing all of your friends. It's not about getting rid of something from your diet. It's about every day doing little micro changes to your life. And then one day you look back and go, oh, I'm living a completely different life now because I've made all these changes on the way. And that's what got me to where I am today. It wasn't that one day I went, oh, I'm depressed, I'm going to come off my drugs and change everything. It was like, no, I'm going to do this, and I've got that. And I've got my mate who I do the podcast with, and I'm not going to do that anymore, and I'm going to eat less of that. Little by little things on a daily basis.
Speaking of podcasts, you're a very, 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 very busy man, and I believe you have places to be and people to see.
That's a subtle way of saying get out. All right, I appreciate that.
No, we just don't want to make you late.
I just don't want to make you late. He starts at 2, and I can get there for 2:30 because he's the main host and I co-host, and it's fine. So, and I'm only up the road, so I can stay for another 10, 15 minutes.
You see, we're very seductive at men's radio station and women's radio station too. Just like it.
No, he just plays mostly music on his show, so it's fine.
Oh, fine. The thing is, though, we've tried to be really very honest here, and the thing about radio is you are talking to one person. I mean, there's nothing worse than saying, hi everybody, welcome out there in Radio Land. I'm not part of Radio Land.
People say, hey guys.
Hey guys, how you? No, I'm not guys. I'm talking to one person, whoever that might be, and it's always the way that I've been. I've always tried to be very honest about it. So making the changes, look to your right, Paul Gannon. You will see James. No, you're right. And there's young James Blake, just 24 years old. 20 weeks ago, we started men's radio station, right? And James came on board as our engineer and producer, and he said to me, whatever you do, please don't make me speak. I can't speak. I said, fine, there's no pressure. It's not, you don't have to speak. Yeah. If you feel like doing it. Now...
Can't shut him up.
Can't shut him up.
I've not heard that joke before.
But, I'm not embarrassing James, because we discussed it honestly and openly, because our guests have been amazing over 20. Stunning. But James's life, in that regard, I'm not talking about other areas of his life, because that's none of my business.
Yeah.
But in terms of his professional trajectory and things like what he thought he was capable of, and what he actually is capable of, he's a different guy from 20 weeks ago. I mean, you are.
All I'm going to say is,
you know it.
I wish I had your forethought when I was 24, because it took me till I was 35, 36 before I actually started doing what I loved professionally.
Well, it's funny. I studied this at university, but then after university it was like I just had enough of it. I just had to get away from it for like a few years, so I just went and worked in a kitchen for a few years.
Fair enough.
And like that, I can't explain it, but that was the best thing I ever did, because it was like, right, no, I actually wanted
to breather.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it made me realise, like, okay, no, I don't really want to be a chef. Like, it was fun, but you know what I mean? It's like,
But it could have been. But it could have been your vocation. You could have said, "This is absolutely what I want." I
just
mean,
don't
I've got
know.
a couple of my friends are chefs, and they absolutely love it. That's what they do, and they
It's
live
like
and breathe it.
my overarching kind of belief is we're all different. I know that's obvious, but there is something in each of us which is a part of our core truth, and that for me is comedy, making people laugh. It could be people who like being a storyteller. It could be that you like health and regime and getting fit. There's something in us which is the core of who we are in some respect, and the lucky ones of us get to exploit that core and be happy doing that exploiting. And so, yeah, I don't make all the money in the world. Yeah, I still have really bad days of my depression. But ultimately, I look back and go, look at all the people I kind of grew up with who haven't left their town and are working in that small job or whatever. At least I've been a zombie in Shaun of the Dead. I've lived in LA. I've done this radio show. I've got a podcast. I've got a movie. I've done all this kind of stuff. It's a life that I didn't expect to have when I was 17.
you were a zombie in Shaun of the Dead?
Oh, yeah. I was pizza delivery zombie.
What? Where? What part? When?
Anytime you see a zombie wearing a pizza delivery bike helmet, that's me, which is horrible because it means I can point myself out instantly, but you won't believe that's me.
Why do you look like? I
No,
suppose
because
you
the visor down.
because you got the visor,
Got the visor on.
down.
And it was a shame because there's a scene right towards the end of that film where Simon Pegg's character was meant to pull the Winchester rifle off, jam it in the helmet, and then pull the trigger and explode the helmet. So they made a cast of my head and everything, and it was exciting. They dropped it because they ran out of time and money.
You know, that film was
Anyway.
the Winchester pub is really close to where my brother lives.
Well, it all depends on which Winchester pub, because the pub that they're basing it on isn't called the Winchester, it was called the Boogaloo in Highgate. And so is that where it is?
At the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Boogaloo. And apparently Simon Pegg still goes in there every now and then.
Oh, really?
When he's not doing his movies.
Well, he's not in LA.
Yeah,
He's
doing his
had
movies.
some career shift. My God.
Yeah. But again, he's a guy who exploited that core part of him, which is that I'm going to exploit the geek in me. And that got him to do Spaced and then Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and Mission Impossible and all
It was
these other
funny,
things.
and to link this back into the kind of the topic of today, he was someone who knew what his image was, he was comfortable with it, and he went with it. And I think that's a big thing.
The fortunate of us get to, again, I've used the word exploit a lot in the last few minutes, but it's true, get to exploit that perception of us. And if you get the chance to do that, I think it's also important that you use that to talk about the things that maybe people don't understand about you, which might be depression.
I'm not sure it's the word exploit. I think it's the word finesse or maximize.
Yeah, maybe.
Because exploit has.
I'm
got
so
a-
cynical about it.
No, and we're both cynic. Then, of course, a cynic is what a romantic calls a realist. The thing about exploit, it has a negative connotation. You know,
Okay.
because it means that someone's getting a lousy deal and someone's getting a better deal.
Okay.
They're taking advantage of. But this is we're talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
As just as people. So do we exploit ourselves, or do we recognise what our strengths are? Well, that's one of the things about getting more comfortable is recognising what you're good at and thinking, yeah, I can do that, and recognising I am rubbish at that. Now I'm rubbish with figures. I'm kind of dyslexic. I'm not being lied about it.
Yeah,
it's like,
numbers.
can I do all that? And I'm trying to move myself into it bit by bit by bit. But you look at balance sheets and you go, it's not reading it. I'm not reading this. It's not talking to me. Show me something to re-edit. Show me something to write. I'll say you got 30 seconds before you go out and face 500 people. You've got to make a talk up. Fine, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Where does the line get drawn then? Where there's that whole argument of conquer your fears, or like almost there's a whole argument of conquer your fears, or just this is not what I'm good at. Where do you draw that line?
Well, I'm not going to go parachuting because joking aside, it would terrify me. I'm not going to go high wire walking. I don't want to do it.
I really don't do parachuting.
So what's the point?
I'm kind of a...
But with numbers, like where do you go, right, I'm not going to get good with numbers, or you say I'm going to conquer my fear and go for it?
I honestly think you can do both, depending on the issue. Like for numbers, I'm the same. I'm really bad with picturing numbers in my head because I can't do mental math. I've got to write it down. I have a calculator. But the way I look at it is like that's my problem. I know friends who don't. So if I get really stuck, I can talk to them. And another important part of mental health is one way or another, you need a community around you. And some people may not have that community because they feel lost or abandoned or alone. But actually, they don't understand the power of strangers sometimes. And so if you can reach out to a stranger, and the most obvious example could be Samaritans, people need to be aware that ultimately they are not alone. So you can only do so much from an outside source with people with depression. But if you can get over the fact that this isn't a battle you do on your own, and there are people you can reach out to, whether they're friends or strangers. That's almost as important as trying to muddle your way through on your own.
But Paul, you know, I know, and so many of the guests that we have, when they talk about depression or they talk about even their suicide attempts, that they feel at that time, in that period or at that moment, they are entirely alone.
They are, but I think, again, that's the demon in the depression. Depression is like having a really awful friend who tells you you're crap all the time, regardless of any evidence. And when you get to a position like that, like I did when I had my suicide attempt, it was like, I feel worthless. And for me, I'll be honest, I don't know if it was a proper attempt or whether it was a cry for help to get that attention I thought I said.
Preempted that.
And I think that's what it came down to. Because again, depression's a really... no, sorry, I'll say that again. Suicide is an incredibly dangerous topic to talk about in general, because you don't, like, there are so many stories about people who did it and then regretted it, people who did it and wish it had gone through, people who did it for attention, some people who wanted it to end. There's so many reasons why you get to a very specific part of your life where you think that's the only way out. And I think someone said to me, and this stuck with me as well, suicide is a very permanent solution to a very temporary issue. And
that's good.
It's a very permanent solution to a very temporary issue.
Really good.
So you know what I mean? So it's like...
It makes sense.
And again, this goes outside of personal issues. But again, you got to... A lot of people who go through that don't think about the repercussions, or they do, and they want to, again, it's a bad word, exploit that whole sense of, oh, they'll be sorry when I'm gone. There's so many different reasons for having that
that's a recurring thing.
You can't pull it apart and say, again, this is the catch-all solution to that. It is about, at the end of the day, boosting the signal of these issues. So when people do hear them, they don't feel alone, or they don't feel like it's uncommon. So there's many different versions of these stories you can find, the better. Because that way, someone might listen one day and go, oh, that relates to me. Because someone's going to be listening to this, so I don't want to do comedy, I don't do ghost hunting. How is your advice going to help me? It won't. Go find. You
don't know that.
Well, no, I don't know that. But what I'm saying for other people is like you've just. I don't know. I've lost my point.
No, you see, they don't have to say, I don't do comedy or I don't do ghost hunting. Mm-hmm. They can say, I do whatever their job might be, and they might say, I like pottering around in my garden.
Yeah.
Which I find, I don't even have a garden, I've got a terrace, but I find it incredibly therapeutic, deadheading and pottering. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I have no idea. But I enjoy it, and I feel better.
Ross Kane, the gardener.
I enjoy pottering. Why do you find that so weird? What do you think I do? Hang on the Groucho 24/7? I mean, what do you think I do?
Yeah, it's
no,
like you,
I
your
don't.
dog, and the Groucho.
No, I don't.
It was like part of the joy of me doing my podcast is that if I get depressed, I can just leave the house and go for a charity shop hunt. I can go to a different part of London and go on a bus. You know, I can get out the house and do it that way. It's a sad little thing like that really.
But why is it? You see, it's that interesting. You say it's a sad little thing. It's not a sad.
No,
little
it's not. But this is who I am, right? This is how I filter my eccentricities by apologising for them.
But why should you?
Well, exactly.
Yeah, why should you?
And it's the
What's
small
wrong with
things.
it?
It's
Nothing.
the small things. It's that small thing of like, this is really sad, but it's not. It's like changing that little thing, I don't know, could make a huge difference to the outcome of it.
I mean, again, you go through a charity shop, and if you scroll through, like I did yesterday, I found Now One on vinyl.
No way.
And do you know how much it was going
Now
for?
One? What?
99p. Yeah, the very first Now album on vinyl.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Please tell me you got it.
Because
I've got Now 3.
Right, this is part of my little thing where if I see a vinyl, they only make
I didn't know it existed.
the first 36.
Well, we had to start somewhere.
Yeah. The first 36 Now albums are on vinyl. After that, they stopped doing it because the sales dropped. So you can only get the first 6. I now have 15 of those 36 on vinyl. And that's my new challenge in life.
Have you got Now 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are the songs?
Give it to
What
you,
are the
mate.
songs?
Like, you know, Phil Collins, Queen, Tina Turner.
When did it start? In the 80s?
I want to say 80.
It was 83,
84.
Yeah, it was early 80s.
Something like that.
Definitely early 80s.
Wow.
A lot of Banana Rama hanging about. That boy George.
I really want to see
Lots of random bands you've never heard of, like Rip Rig and Panic.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean? They all turn up on Now albums. But that's the joy. I'll go to a charity shop, see it, and go, I've got to have it. You know?
Well, that, I love a
99p.
charity shop.
You've shocked me with that.
Yeah, because you can buy it reissued for 30 quid at HMV or
I
whatever
bet
it
you
is.
can.
I wouldn't bother.
No, why? Because the songs aren't going to
Well,
sound.
I go through, I found like a bunch of comedy albums. Do you remember Rob Roy? Ray Roy, comedian.
No.
Spook, Slither. Do you remember him?
No.
Found his album completely at random. Found a Cannonball album. Found a Saturday
talking.
Special album.
Hey, took
All these
Cannonball.
and that's what I love. I have this weird thing about nostalgia as well, and like entertainment. So all these little things I found in charity shops bring me joy. And again, it is the small things in life.
I love a charity shop.
I adore them now.
I love a charity shop.
What's wrong with them?
Back in the day, you thought, I'm not going to go and get my clothes and stuff from there. But these days, it's like, I've got this nice jacket.
Right, very quickly, we've got about a minute or so. Who is your stupid question?
Go on.
Name me your favourite comic.
Interesting. I would probably go for Rick Mayall. He's probably had more of an effect on me and my comedy and my humour and my styling than any other. Following that, maybe Vic and Bob. Vic and Bob, very, very close to my heart.
Yeah, wouldn't let it lie.
And then Derek and Clive, which I know is not Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, but again, Derek and Clive had a very strong effect on my life at a very important time.
None of which we're going to be able to do.
No.
Right.
And that means...
If I came up to me, he says hello. I mean, just the...
It's just you can't do any of it.
You can't do any of it. But even thinking about it just makes me burst out.
It's the extremity of it. I've always called it like punk comedy. So that's why I've liked it.
So extreme. It's so disgusting.
That's
it's so
basically what Cheap Show is.
we like that. Right. Our guest, and thank you so much for giving us so much of your time. I know you got back-to-back day now. Paul Gannon, find him on YouTube, find him on your podcast. He's like everywhere.
Yeah, Cheap Show Digitizer, Paul Gannon Show. Job done.
Job done.
Paul, thanks so much for coming into Men's Radio Station.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of Started Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Started Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Starters would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Hello and welcome to a brand new show coming very soon to Men's Radio. I'm Sandro Forte and I'm really looking forward to chatting to some fabulous guests, all of whom will be sharing insights into what made them hugely successful or simply what they did to overcome some of life's challenges. The 40 hour is going to be interactive. Please do call in and speak to us, as well as insightful, inspirational and educational. So don't miss the 40 hour coming really soon to Men's Radio.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
I'm Ross Kane. This is indeed Men's Radio Station, coming at you live from the centre of London here in Covent Garden, full of people wandering around with the biggest suitcases and rucksacks. And, well, thank you for lovely with your tourist money. Thank you. We love you. Just don't love you on the tube when you're blocking the doors. If you're wondering who that was before, that was Paul Gannon, and if you want to get him on Twitter, it's at Paul Gannon Show, SHOW, at Paul Gannon Show, all one word. Now, What was I going to say? Oh, yes, with James Blake. I was distracted for a second. I was distracted because I was going to back credit that last ad, which was the German Street Theatre, and I shouldn't do it, but what the hell? What are you going to do? Take me out and shoot me? No. If you've never been to the German Street Theatre, you are absolutely missing a treat. People say, oh, is it just a little play? Well, the last play was directed by Sir Trevor Nunn, so it gets amazing reviews, wonderful shows, and it's just a jewel. I love it there.
They do put on some really good shows.
Fantastic shows, wonderful plays there, and it's always been very good to me, and I'm thrilled they're with us. So, German Street Theatre, which is in. Where is it? I go, hazard a guess. It's called the German Street Theatre. Where do you think it might be? Peru? No, it's in German Street. Right. Our next guest, looking beyond cool. There's a definite hint of the Johnny Depp going on here. If you're watching on Facebook Live, here's the very good-looking one. Dennis is the very chic, elegant one, and I'm the wreck at the end of the table. Dan Roberts, welcome back. Friend O Show, as they say on Soho Radio. Friend O Show. I'm nicking B.B. Lynch's phrase. I don't care. What's she going to do? Sue me? Doubt it. Have to learn to write
This
first.
just in, Russ Kane, didn't he?
You get sued by B.B. Lynch, or as I always call her, Booby Lunch. Now, Dan, here's your background. You know this, but
Yes.
just to position it for everybody.
Okay.
You started coaching in 1993, which is like forever ago. Unless you're James Blake, in which case you weren't born.
2 years before I was born.
Yeah, yeah.
Depressing. That is just so freakingly depressing. Dan Roberts has done over 20,000 hours of personal training. Good God. Lived, worked, studied in 5 countries. Inland Revenue still after him. Author 3 qualifications, competed in Muay Thai. Have I pronounced that right? Mm-hmm. Oh, that was a good guess. Tennis, lacrosse, ultra marathons. You're a thought leader in mind-body development and a celebrated coach to Hollywood actors. Oh, yeah. Athletes, models, and international royal families. But apart from that, what have you done, Dan? Come on, you slacker. Welcome to Men's Radio Station.
Thank you. Nice to be back.
Thank you. Well, we always loving having you. We love having guests who think, yeah, it wasn't so terrible. I'm gonna come back. Have you been Hollywooding recently?
I've been working with actors, yes, but I've been in Europe though. I haven't been to LA.
There's a theme emerging. Have you noticed that Paul said, yeah, I was in Shaun of the Dead. So he says. So you're not allowed to say who you've been working with, are you?
No, it's all contracts with studios.
Okay, but we'd know the names.
Yeah, it's usually the lead of films, usually action films I work with.
Now this comes full circle to what we were kicking off with, and I have to say, all credit where it's due to James's great idea. This being Mental Health Awareness Week, and James said that body image and self. You explain it. It's your thing. Go on.
Okay, so this is Mental Health Awareness Week, where people are trying to raise awareness for mental health, and the main theme of the week is sort of body dysmorphia and body image. And I reached out to Dan because Dan came on the show before, and he's a PT, and something I wanted to discuss with him. He's actually done lots of training with Hollywood actors, models, etc., etc., etc. But the theme is body image, and I thought, what better than to bring Dan in to talk about body image?
I'm both stunned and impressed. If only your mum was here to share the moment. You thought I'd forgotten, have you? No.
I was like, no, we've got 2 hours.
A mind like a steel trap, James Blake.
Dan unfortunately didn't get to meet Mum last time he came in, but my mum has started to come do the green room stuff, so you'll have to come back again to meet Mum.
I dubbed her the green room goddess, and she said, oh, I really like that. There we are. So,
she's on strike this week, but hey.
But it makes sense. I mean, because exercise plays a role. I think it can play a positive role, but it can also play a negative role. And it's
well, I mean, exercise and it is part of body image, right? It is how people lose weight. I think. Well,
when people want to, when people say they want to get fit or get strong or lose weight, what they really mean is they want to feel better about their body.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's all body image. How they feel about their relationship with their body. For some people, that means being a size 8. For some people, it means having 30-inch jeans. Some people, it means being ripped or massive. But it's essentially, they want to feel better about themselves.
They just want to feel comfortable with the way they look.
Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes I don't necessarily think that means having a size 30 waist or having big muscles.
But it does to some people. Not to you, but it does to some people.
To some people.
And this is the whole issue with body image. We all have a relationship with our own body. And we need to, I think, explore that if we're going to be happy.
And that's such a great thing, explore that. But my thing is, you see a lot of Hollywood actors and you see a lot of models who have this look. And does that mean just because they are a Hollywood actor, if I have that look, am I going to be happy? Or,
well, I think when your body is your profession, it's a slightly different thing. Sometimes you have to disassociate slightly.
Well, that's what we spoke about at the top of the show. We said about how like people see these, we were talking about Marvel superheroes, and I'm like, the thing is, they are superheroes. That's their profession, to look like a superhero, and it's like you don't necessarily have to look like that to be happy with.
But even they don't look like that when they're not.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Exactly. That's what I mean. Exactly.
They train for 6 months, incredibly hard. Usually like 3-4 hours a day, sometimes 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. They have trainers, strength coaches, nutritionists, fight coordinators. It's a lot of money and time and energy is put into getting those actors looking and performing the way they do, but they don't even look like that. Yeah, by the time the film's out, they look different.
The reality of the situation is that that's not the body image that they want either.
Well, they can't maintain that. It's impossible to maintain that kind of condition.
Exactly, and that's where my problem is.
How long after when the cameras stop rolling? Get me with my showbiz terminology. And Hugh Jackman or Chris Pratt or any of these guys, Chris Hemsworth. And they've stopped doing that and having that incredibly intense regime surrounded by all the experts, much like yourself. How long before they revert to what would be more like their actual body shape, not the forced body shape?
I mean, some actors are, like people like Chris Hemsworth is a bit of an exercise fanatic, so he doesn't really stop. He'll just do less strength training and more conditioning. But some actors, I mean, I don't look after him, but I know Daniel Craig, after he gets fit for Bond, does absolutely nothing for 6 months.
Have you not seen the recent Chris Hemsworth thing, Dan?
The app?
No, the recent picture he put on Instagram.
No.
Where he's like big. He's obviously
like fat big.
Well, he's obviously like taken a few weeks off training, so he's not as defined as he was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it might be for a role as well.
He's doing it with Mental Health Awareness Week.
Oh, really?
To say, like,
oh, okay.
I'm a professional, I'm paid to look like 4, but he's like, if I was just an average guy, I wouldn't have, like you said, I wouldn't have 6 days a week, 3 hours to train every day. And he's like, this is what I would look like.
But even him, when he's like out of condition, is still probably pretty good.
He's in he's in a lot better shape than me, yeah. But you can just see, there's a picture of it. I wish I had printed it off, but there's a picture of him when he's on set for 4, and it's just like this perfect sculpted,
This is the issue. This is the image we have in our head, and this is the problem with social media. We look at the kind of after photos. We don't look at the process, and we don't look at the hard work of training. We just see a snapshot of the end result.
Yeah, you just see,
which is temporary, and then in our brains, subconsciously, we think, oh, that's the norm, when it's not. And if we're exposed to lots of images, which women have had dealt with for years, with models being on the cover of magazines, if you're not skinny, white, and young, then you're not beautiful, which is ridiculous. Yeah, but that's what women have had to deal with for the last 40 years.
If you're not skinny, white, and young, good luck, basically.
Yeah, which is nonsense. It's absolute nonsense.
It is nonsense. It is nonsense, and that is why.
Do you do, apart from walking home, do you do any exercise, James Blake?
I used to.
No, we're not talking about. Well, I used to do a lot of things, most of which we're never going to discuss again. But do you actually do anything?
No.
So how can you then moan and kvetch that you say, oh, I should look better, and then you think in the same breath, well, I don't actually do anything towards that, but anything at all.
I used to be in the gym 5 days a week.
So what's your rationale? Are you actively not training on purpose, or just other things got in the way?
Life got in the way is my excuse. It was when I was at uni and I had lots of free time on my hand. I would be like in the gym with all my buddies lifting weights. And now it's a societal thing as well, because I don't like this connotation of, to be beautiful you have to be buff.
Yeah,
but also my excuse.
That's an excuse.
Yeah, sounds a bit like an excuse. But you can look at. I mean, gym isn't just about training. Isn't just about looking a certain way.
No, exactly.
For your health, for your bones, for your mental well-being. Yeah. There's definitely a link between mental wellness and exercise. Helps you connect with yourself, and 100%. Stress relief and dopamine release. So there are benefits outside of, you don't have to do weights to get really built.
But you can't disagree with me when I say that is the idea in 90% of men's heads when they go to the gym, is that I want to be buff.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think that's wrong. It's not the way I think.
I think it's wrong. I do think it's wrong, yeah.
But just because most people get it wrong
And I think
doesn't mean that that's not a good argument for you not doing it.
that's true. I mean, I should definitely do it. Thanks for this, guys.
No, I'm just.
Grilling.
I tell you why I'm doing it. It was a much more general crowd. I wasn't picking on James. Okay, I was picking on James, but that's what he's there for. But what I was really thinking is all of us, and I was just using James because I know, as an example, we all make the excuse why we can't do something. Mm-hmm. And you're the living embodiment of why we can do something. So if you're pretty much like me and James at way different ages, but how can we start easing ourselves into some sort of regime? I mean, I've changed my diet, which has really helped, I must be honest with you. I fall off the wagon occasionally, but otherwise it's okay.
It's a good question. I think before you start strategizing what to do, you have to go back a step and actually really work out if it's important to you. Because the biggest excuse, what James said, is like, I haven't got time. You do have time if it was important. You have time to come into work because it's important to you.
If I get paid.
Yeah. You have time to eat. You have time to maybe watch a movie every so often. So it's all about priorities. So if exercise isn't a priority, it doesn't matter what strategies I give you, you're never going to do it.
Well,
so you have to kind of really, again, explore mentally, like, do I want to exercise more? Why? And then sort of you have that conversation with yourself first, and then once you're motivated, then you can start thinking about, I cycle to work, for example, which I live an hour and a half cycle ride.
What?
Away. So it's 3 hours a day of cardio I get in, because sometimes I'm too busy to do stuff.
You cycle an hour and a half each way?
Yeah, because I live over in Surrey. I live miles away. So
I thought you lived around the corner.
I used to live about like 4 doors away.
Oh.
Unfortunately, now I live like...
Did you cycle in today?
No, because it's Sunday. I do it Monday to Friday, and my leg's about to fall off. But I find it hard.
Wow. I do the same thing. That I walk home from work. I don't walk in the morning because in the morning I'm half asleep, and I try and stay in bed.
So why do you walk? Why do you walk?
It's for exercise. It's for mental health, and I think it's a great way after my day to unwind.
Great,
because I get that hour of I'm just alone, I've just got my music on and I just walk.
And that's why some people do a boxing class, or why some people do Zumba, or why some people do martial arts, or some people go for a run. So it's a lot of the same rationale behind it.
Touching on martial arts, I wonder what, because you're a martial artist.
Yeah, I love martial arts.
What is the sort of the martial arts approach to body image, I wonder, and the way people look and feel and stuff?
Well,
I don't know.
A true martial artist doesn't care what they look like, because it depends which martial arts you're talking about. I mean, traditional martial arts, it's very spiritual practice, like kung fu, things like that. It's not even about hurting someone or hitting someone. It's a self-growth thing. So and a lot of them attached to like Eastern cultures, where like in Thailand is a Buddhist country, for example. So they try and lose the ego and about sort of self-growth and see the truth in the world, and that's not about having a six-pack.
So it's almost saying as if, like, why care? Almost.
Well, it's just not important.
It's not
because it isn't. If we all know if we think about it.
See, this is another thing as well. I do agree with you slightly to say that it's not important, but I feel like body image is it needs to be what you're comfortable with. You need to be comfortable with your body image. And I think it encompasses a lot of things. I don't think it just encompasses fitness and health and like if I'm fat or thin, but I think it encompasses what you wear, how you act, what's your hairstyle. And
Yes, but the issue is obsession with your body. Not that you shouldn't care. I'm not saying people shouldn't care at all what they look like. That's usually a sign of depression when people give up completely. And it's nice to communicate from the watch or a car, whatever it is. But obsessing about anything usually is a bad path to go down.
And isn't that kind of, I mean, I don't know, like you're the martial artist here, but isn't that kind of also, again, a martial arts thing? It's about balance, isn't it? It's about having, like, being comfortable.
The classic thing in Taoism is yin and yang.
Yeah.
So, the argument is it's all balance, and too much extreme, the Buddhists call it the middle path, where you go too extreme in one way is always pretty bad.
You're always going to have a negative time
exactly.
if you go down one path.
And that's true. Obsession about anything, money, fame, career, anything, is going to it's going to come back and hurt you a little bit if you obsess too much.
It's interesting to try and find the balance, though, between obsession, which we know has very negative connotations, and being very focused.
Yes, I think being aware is the key thing here.
In the what?
In knowing what's happening. Like I'm a bit of a workaholic at the moment, and I'm well aware of that. But it's
welcome
Hello.
to the club.
but it's an active choice.
Welcome, Dan Roberts, to the Workaholic Club.
But it's a choice, and I'm aware of the things because basically to be like, if you're focusing on your career, for example, it's the people who do really well aren't cleverer. They're willing to make the sacrifices. Usually.
You're absolutely right, and of course, it's as they always say, it's a weird thing. The harder I work, the luckier I get.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's so true. Where are you on this, Dennis?
Yeah, I think
Right
it's
into the
important to take care of their body. It's not just a motivation should not just be about to look good, but to actually feel healthy. I was just wondering what's Dan's Roberts' take on like obesity, like people telling that. Do you know about the body positivity movement?
Yeah.
I just want to hear your thoughts about that.
That's a great question because I'm quite vocally against it, which isn't very popular.
Yeah, I know.
I understand the point of like, yes, we should accept ourselves, but when it goes too far that we're celebrating an unhealthy image, like I think a few months ago was I think Ashley Graham's her name. She's a plus size model in America, but she's obese.
Oh, Ashley Graham.
Yeah.
She's out on every single tube poster you can imagine.
But that's unhealthy. That's not. That's not a healthy size to be. For me, it's the same argument as like why we shouldn't have someone anorexic on there. So saying it's so bad to judge people because they're skinny and then just have someone really, really overweight.
Now, is she? I don't know anything about her. I think she's Australian, Ashley. Because I was.
I don't know. I've heard,
here's the thing, Dan Roberts. I was so bombarded with images of her because I'm on the tube coming in here and going to meetings and stuff, so I won't bother to drive anymore. So everywhere you go, huge posters, and I thought, who is this Ashley Graham? No, I've never heard of her. I don't know who the hell she is. So I thought, well, out of curiosity, because it was driving me mad, I looked it up and I thought, she's not a plus size, as they say, model from Australia. Seems pretty jolly, very pretty face and all the rest of it. Now, I'm not an expert. You are an expert. You live and breathe it, right? Is that someone who is simply curvy? Or is that someone who's quite clearly eating every burger in town? I don't know. The answer, by the way, I don't know. I'm asking the question because I don't know the answer.
Well, I don't know her, but I'd hazard a guess that she looks very. That's for me. That's putting my trainer and nutritionist hat on. That's too big. That's unhealthy. Even if she can get away with that now, there's always some outliers which can get away with being very, very skinny or very large. But usually when you're big, you put more strain on your heart, more strain on your joints, and it causes problems. I don't think it's a positive image. In the same way, I don't think someone anorexic is, or looking, like super, super skinny is a positive image. But it's tricky because particularly in sort of the world in women's media, it's been so bombarded with this one aesthetic of like skinny, white, young, that I understand if you're a woman, it's quite nice to, for once, not have someone who looks more like you. So I get that.
But I guess the worry is, of course, I'm bearing in mind this is men's radio station, so we're encroaching on our sister station, women's radio station. But is it saying you're getting permission? Being curvy. People are curvy. Some people are curvy naturally. But is it, I suppose it's a line where you're saying, you want to eat crisps, have that extra burger, who cares? And then, as you say, the health side of it is really very negative.
We can all do whatever we want, It's like, but the point is, when you're celebrated, it's not her I have an issue with. It's magazine editors who decide to put her on the cover as a role model. When you're in the front of a magazine, that's like aspirational. This is good. Yes. That's the issue I have. Not with her at all. She can do what hell she wants.
Same issue I have as well. It's like when it gets put out here, it's like this is the beauty standard. This is the body image you have to attain.
And it's because it's trendy. Body positivity is very trendy, and sadly, even mental health awareness. Mental health is quite trendy, so you get a lot of people on Instagram chatting about mental health when they don't know anything about it, because then it gets more likes at the moment.
It's what creates the buzz.
Yeah. So maybe I'm being a bit cynical, but...
No, I don't think you're being cynical.
Yeah. Russ said a good thing. Was it cynicalism is...
a cynic is what a romantic calls a realist.
So you're just being real, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm just being in my 40s.
If somebody wanted, let's get down to some nitty-gritty here. If somebody wanted to start, not a kid, let's say 40 plus, and somebody wanted to start improving generally their health by some training, what's the easiest? And let's be honest, people are pushed for time and also will inherently lazy. What's the easiest? What would you start to recommend?
I would start activity before exercise. So what James is doing, walking more, being more active. When you're on the tube, take the stairs rather than the lift, and the little tiny things to get your body and your mind used to moving more. I would do that first and get used to that, and then you'll naturally, if you want to do more, then you can start programming exercise. But there's no point sitting down all day and then once a week going to a CrossFit class and going crazy. That's how you get injured. It's much best to warm up.
Isn't that bad? Say, for example, because I know lots of people that do that. They go to a spin class once a week and they go, right, that's my exercise done for the week.
I don't recommend that. I think it's best to be more. I think it's better for the body and the mind to incorporate activity into our daily routine. I think that has more benefits psychologically and also physiologically.
Well, physiologically, I think psychologically, I agree with you that it's much better to do it a small bits over the course of a week. I just think that's better for the mind. But physiologically, I wonder, how bad is it for the body?
Well, I think in terms of total calorie, if you walk an extra half an hour a day, which is not that big a deal, you would burn way more calories. If you times that by 7, that's way more calories than the most intensive 1 hour class you'll ever do. Now,
one of the twins at home is a gym fanatic, in the gym every day, looks utterly amazing. The other twin, I don't think he knows how to spell gym, but it's amazing. And he had a real go at me, which was this. I said, I'm doing lots of walking. He went, you're wasting your time. I said, what do you mean I'm wasting my time? I didn't want to hear that because I was really making an effort. He said, you're wasting your time because you amble along. And I'm walking with my mini schnauzer, and it's like the dog will stop every 10 seconds for a wee. So you're not getting, if your heart rate isn't thumping and you're not sweating, you're wasting your time. I said, but surely, and here's my question to you because you're the expert, if I'm doing something, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Is it only effective if my heart is racing and I'm sweating? Seriously?
No, it's hard because you're both right, in a way. As always, these things are quite nuanced.
His Oxford University education.
It kind of depends. I mean, the main thing is for your heart health and for your lungs, mainly for your heart actually, just moving more, even if it's the same pace all the time, is beneficial.
Right.
100%. But if you want to invoke some sort of change, if you want to lose some weight or get stronger muscles, then you need something called progressive resistance. It means you have to make it a little bit harder each week. So walking a bit faster or walking a bit longer. And that's where I think he's coming from. If you're already pretty fit, like for me, I'm quite fit. So if I went
kidding.
If I went for a walk, if I did a 10k run now, wouldn't do anything because it's not that hard for me. I'd have to run further.
Why did you invite him in? Why?
Anyone
who says, hey, if I did a 10k run, it'd be nothing. Like I can't even, no.
So if I want to get fitter, if I want to get fitter, if I want to get better at 10ks, I have to run it really. I'm saying if I run 10k slowly, if I ran 10k in for me like an hour, it would do nothing. But if I ran it in 40 minutes, that would help me get fitter.
If I did
10k
in an hour, I'd be celebrating.
This is my point. We're all at different levels. Yeah. So for some people, going if you're not active at all, going for a walk for, if you broke your leg, you haven't moved for like 6 months, and you go for a walk for half an hour, that's amazing.
Oh yeah.
So it's all progressive, but the idea is that you constantly have to push. Just like anything in life, you have to go to the next level.
Yes.
Like you do for careers, like you do for everything.
But I think you have to know what it is you want and what it is you want your body image to be and how you want to be comfortable with it. And I think that's the important part. I think you have to know what it is you're setting out to do. It's like you said, are you just trying to get fit or are you trying to gain muscle? And it's like, that's a goal.
Obviously people hire me and my team, and one of the first questions we ask is like, hey, why do you call us? How can we help? And a lot of times people don't know. They're like, well, I want to get fitter. What does that mean? Oh, I don't know. I need to get fitter.
Yeah, what does fitness mean to you?
So quite often nowadays I find that I kind of tell people what their goals should be rather than sort of helping them, because people don't know, because they're not fitness, they're not in the world of knowing what's possible with their body.
I'm interested, what are some of the responses you get? Has anyone ever turn around and say, I want to get fit for my mental health? Do you ever get that one?
For stress, I've had like CEOs, people who run like, stressed out executives, and they're like, I just need it, I need a release, don't care what you do, don't care about my body, I need something to
And then that conversation you have with them generally talks about, well, fitness is a good channel for mental health.
Well, what we do, we just try, and sometimes talk is a bit cheap. We just get on and we
talk is cheap.
Sorry, probably the worst thing to say in a radio station. But we have to kind of move, because you don't know if I say, hey, do you want to do boxing, or do you want to do sprinting? Do you want to do Olympic lifting? They don't know. If you haven't done it, how do you know? So my role is what I do is try everything over the first month or so. It's like, hey, let's do this and let's do that. And then after the month, then we sit down and say, hey, what did you like? What didn't you like? And then they've got a more informed choice. They're like, you know what, I really enjoyed that boxing. I want to get better at that.
I think that's a great thing as well. I mean, another thing especially with guys and body image at the moment is, I don't know if you know, but it was just the Arnold Classic, wasn't it? It's been,
the bodybuilding.
The bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So it's been all over social media. So it's like, I've been watching it and it's like, you know, they're lifting like trees and like tires. And I'm thinking like, oh, like, I watched that and I think, is that something I want to do? Is that something I need to do to get fit?
Is it something you want to do?
I don't know.
I've got no interest in doing it.
Maybe
no, seriously, I've actually no interest. I don't even want to look ripped. I'd like to look, but it's probably too late, a little bit more defined. But I think a lot of it, and Dan, I'd like your professional opinion. You can discuss it and think about it. Is it taking back control? Don't answer now. We're going to go to a break. I'm Russ Kane with James Blake and Dennis, who's silent but very efficient. This is Men's Radio Station. Back in a minute.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Davis. I'm the proud owner of Started Cigars in Mayfair and Knightsbridge. For the past 60 years, we've been providing the world's best Cuban cigars. When it comes to cigars, there's no other than Started Cigars from Mayfair and Knightsbridge. We at Starters would like to wish Men's Radio Station every support in their task for helping men's emotional and mental well-being. Check them out. Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
Do you want to hang out and really know that you've been listened to? Do you want to debrief and have a laugh and not have to fall down the same hole as every other man in front of you? Then why not go to mensgroups.co.uk, download the Men's Groups ground rules, download the Men's Groups check-in round. There are loads of videos and you can just hit the ground running, growing with other men.
Your call is important to us. You are now number 15 in a queue.
At Profile Insurance Services, we treat people as individuals. You'll speak to a real person, not a call centre. We're fast, small, independent, and have a superb team of insurance specialists. And they're really nice too. Advice is totally free and we cover everything. Call 0208 931 3306. Listeners to Men's Radio Station won't pay a penny for admin fees. That's 0208 931 3306. With Profile Insurance Services, you're covered.
Hello and welcome to a brand new show coming very soon to Men's Radio. I'm Sandro Forte and I'm really looking forward to chatting to some fabulous guests, all of whom will be sharing insights into what made them hugely successful or simply what they did to overcome some of life's challenges. The 40 hour is going to be interactive. Please do call in and speak to us, as well as insightful, inspirational and educational. So don't miss the 40 hour coming really soon to Men's Radio.
Let me tell you about Jermyn Street Theatre. We are the smallest theatre in the West End, only 70 seats. We are a registered charity and not grant-aided, run by a small team of volunteers and trustees. Jermyn Street Theatre is a hidden gem. It combines the comfort and convenience of the West End with the intimacy of a studio. Every seat has a perfect view of the stage, and even a whisper is audible. This is a secret theatre in the heart of the West End, once found, never forgotten.
You're listening to Men's Radio Station, where men really talk.
In conversation with Dan Roberts, who is like a fitness genius and martial art brilliance, and I don't know, sometimes you just think the mountain is too high to climb. So, the question that I posed before our ad break is this. Is some of this dieting and keep fit business? Is it about taking back control to feel better about yourself, just from that perspective?
It can be, yes, and that's where exercise becomes incredibly powerful and empowering. It's not always the case. Some people take it too far and it becomes about vanity. I think that's where there's a trend definitely amongst like younger generation of like posting pictures themselves on Instagram, where I don't think it's about empowerment, it's about vanity and self-promotion, and I think that's dangerous for mental health. But I think for most of us, particularly ones not addicted to gym selfies, for most of the population, it is incredibly empowering, and it is taking control back, and that's the best thing about it.
Because I know when I lose, well, I was never hugely overweight, but I had a weight. I share this because we get lots of guests in. I had a bad back following a car crash 21 years ago. I was playing up. I went to the GP to try and get some painkillers because it was driving me up the pole, and because it's inoperable, blah blah blah. And he said, I got your blood results back. Blood test results. I said, well, I had those months ago. Okay. Well, had I not gone, he wouldn't bother to phone. I know they're busy. I'm not being rude at all. And he said, you're pre-diabetic. I said, I'm sorry, what? He said, you're pre-diabetic. And I was like, you're kidding me. He said, no, he has no sense of humour, by the way. And so I thought, he said, but it's completely reversible. I said, fine, then I'm going to reverse it. I just, on the spot, I'm going to reverse it, which I'm clearly doing. I've lost a stone, feel better, cut out loads of stuff that I shouldn't have been eating probably. I like it. But of course, as you were saying in the break, we've got to live.
Yeah, and I think your story, that story is very common. Like we all have different points where we have a wake-up call. When I was like 25, if my 8-pack dropped to a 6-pack, I'd be annoyed. Now I have no packs and I don't care.
Oh, the woe of life.
Oh, dear.
For some people, I've got a client, when he hits 100 kilos, that's when he gets motivated. And when he drops out, when he goes over 100 kilos, that's when he gets motivated. When he gets like 99, then he chills out and he thinks he's fine. And that's because I'm not saying this is good, but we all have different points. And for you, it's a doctor saying, hey, you're pre-diabetic.
Yeah.
But I think when we have that line, the lower it is, the less tolerance to being out of shape. That's the people who are in shape, the people who don't accept it.
The worst thing for my diet, the worst thing, if I wake up one morning and go, oh, I look skinny today, that is the worst thing for my diet, because it's like, I think my work is done. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm here, I'm skinny now, I can be skinny.
Which particular morning would that be, Joe?
That was harsh.
Several.
If I'm nice to him, he gets really nervous because he knows there's a problem.
Something's wrong.
He knows if I'm really nice to him, he knows there's going to be a memo.
If I walk into in the office in the morning and he goes, oh, James, you're looking good today, I'm immediately, I look in the mirror like, what's wrong? What's wrong?
Quick Mars bar.
I'm like, quick Mars bar. I'm like, something's not right here. You know.
But this control thing. Okay, I shouldn't weigh myself every day. I do because I want to see if it's not vanity. I want to see if I'm actually making progress.
Well, that's fine then. Then you should. If it works for you, then you should.
Thank you. Because other people say, no, don't weigh yourself. It's not about that. But I said, but then I can't monitor if I'm making progress, if I'm slipping behind.
But if all you do is think about like your weight and it starts impacting on every area of your life, then it's maybe a bit of an issue. But it's not. So it's fine.
I don't want to be diabetic.
Yeah,
I mean, that's number one. And number two, I don't want to look like a middle age if I live to be 200. Obviously, I'd be middle-aged, but I don't want to be looking horrible. I just don't. I have pride.
For a lot of people, they obsess about weight. I think it happens more with women than it does men. But if you obsess about something, then taking it away is more empowering. For you, it's actually more empowering to measure it. So it works for you. So
then I think, well, I've got some measure of control over my life because most of life is, as you know, Dan, utterly random. You don't know what the hell's going to happen. Walk down the corner and get hit by a bus, a piece of scaffolding, and fall. You don't know. It's not within your purview to control it. But you can control your weight, kind of.
And if you want, and you can control how you think about your body and the relationship you have with food and the relationship you have with exercise, the relationship you have with yourself. These things we can choose, but quite often we don't. We just muddle along. We don't really explore it. That's why I think it's worth actually spending time to think about not kind of what body you want, but what kind of relationship do you want with your body? What is it to you? Is it a part of you? Or is it like a car where you have to look after? Or is it your house where you live in? Or is it who you are? Is it your identity? You can get a bit philosophical, but the more you understand what relationship you have, then it's easier.
To be honest, I'm not quite sure I'm following that. Well, because it's a very, very interesting point you're raising, but maybe I'm being thick, but I'm just not entirely sure.
No, you're not thick at all. It's just I'm not communicating.
No. It's like, all right, So at my age and my time of life, I'm not going to say, right, I want to be ripped. I don't. And neither do I have any interest in looking like that. I don't know if this is helpful. I'm using just as an example. All right. And I'm not going to speak of, like Dennis can eat what he likes. Look how slim he is. James. Anyway, so why?
So funny. So funny.
We had one of the leading. Do you know something? We had one of the leading psychoanalysts in here the other week, a professor no less, and he was cracking. He said, "You two, this is the most wonderful working relationship." He's now become a friend of the show, so to speak. But he was, he came in suited and a professional beard and the whole thing, and he was just cracking just because he was brilliant. He was. So what I'm saying is this. And I'm asking you, obviously, I don't want to be ripped. I'm not going to look like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. That's never going to happen. I can't have all that stuff. Is it my image? No, because my image is hopefully is my writing or my speaking. It's not what I look like. Who cares? But it's just a bit of self pride. I think when you get older, you look around at your friends and you think, Christ, you look terrible. You've let yourself. That whole thing of you've let yourself go, and I guess. For me, I never want to think, God, it used to be this. He's let himself go. I couldn't bear that. But that's all I want out of it. I don't want anything else out of it.
Which is fine because you know it. My point, this is very much links into what I was saying. It's about your identity. Now, for some people, for example, cliched example, but like a 23-year-old lad. Usually a little bit more
looking just no further than glasses, beard, Ed Sheeran look alike.
Usually are more conscious about the way they look. Because normally they want to sleep with people, and they want to, stuff like that. You kind of care less about that as you get older.
I think as well, you haven't quite established your identity yet.
Yeah, you're figuring stuff out, and it's a naturally more insecure time. So it's quite normal, I think, when we're younger to slightly put the way we look into our identity. I think as we get older, particularly into our 40s and 50s, it becomes more about family, if you have that, or your career. I've got a family. If you haven't got a family, you've probably got a good career. And that's your identity. So yourself, Russ, was saying about your writing and your career. That's how you value yourself. If you didn't have any of that, if you had no career whatsoever, and you had no family, you probably would care more about your body because, that would be your identity. But it's a natural progression to change and to evolve.
Yeah, but Dan, you briefly mentioned earlier about social media.
Yeah.
I was just interested because if I got it right, that you started coaching in 1993.
Yes.
So that was pre-social media. So would you say
pre-Google?
Pre-Google. So
pre-James.
Would you say that there was an increase in the pressure to look good before social media, or?
I think there's definitely been. It's been well documented.
Yeah.
I think, James, you got some stats. I don't know if these cover these stats, but it's been well documented
We'll see.
about how there's an increase in body image dysmorphia, in obesity, in eating disorders, in all kinds of issues related to not being happy about our body. Gym membership's gone up. Every kind of stat you can find related to are we a bit more obsessed about our body? It shows that yes, we are, more and more so.
1 in 5 UK adults. 1 in 5 UK adults said images on social media had caused them to worry about their body image.
I mean, wow, 1 in 5.
1 in 5.
That's loads.
That is loads. 1 in 5. I mean, if you think there's 4 people in here, so that'd be that extra person we had would be the one that worries about it.
Probably your mother who's not here today.
Who's worried about her body image. But it's just like you say, it's
But even the ones who don't admit to worrying, it's still a message in our psyche, So I think all of us get affected by it.
Here's the thing, Dan. Let me ask you this. And I have a problem with this. Take somebody and I'm just using her as an example. I'm not picking on her, okay? No. Gemma Collins, all right? Putting aside whether she's completely talentless or whatever. So here you've got somebody who...
He swears to God he's not picking on her.
No, I'm saying putting aside, that's not the point I'm trying to make. The media, for whatever reason, push this woman forward and she's all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And yet she's clearly, there's a difference between being curvy and someone who is...
She's overweight. That's not wrong in saying that, yeah.
Well... I'm trying to be polite, but she looks heavily overweight to me. And bizarrely, I know a team that was around her, and they put her on the diet. She's not interested in dieting. It's not that. So I don't want to hear any of this. She can't help it. Everybody can kind of help it. You're never going to look like Victoria Beckham, it's a body shape. So if you're curvy, you're curvy. That's fine. But it's this dichotomy between the media going, isn't this great? And then from the health side, and we're always being told, especially when I do the shows on the BBC, you've got a diabetes problem, you've got an obesity problem, all of these things, and they're not being honest with each other.
Well, no, but the media have magazines in particular and actually even TV programs. They're businesses. So I think the moral compass is maybe not so great as it used to be.
21% of adults said images used in advertising had caused them to worry about their body. So that as well adds to that point of you're trying to make of like you're always being fed this idea of how you should look, and maybe it's changing a little bit.
No, I don't think it'll ever change. I actually don't think it will change. It is the very nature of the beast.
That's why we, as like individuals, have to employ a bit of critical reasoning, and we have to kind of choose who we, what kind of images and messages we're getting. Like if you're on social media, we can choose who we follow. If I just followed 400 male bodybuilders, I'd probably feel quite insecure if I was looking every day, looking at these guys with big muscles. It would affect me. I'm sure it would.
It's exactly how I felt this morning watching the Arnold Classic.
Don't watch it then.
But it's like, I'm a fan of Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I was just like,
It's the one guy I want to meet. It's the one person I want to meet.
You know that?
I'd love to meet Arnie.
Really?
I'd love to meet Arnie.
Do you know?
Did you read his
I think
autobiography,
he
Total Recall?
He got drop kicked in the air.
He's an amazing
fascinating
guy.
book. Yeah, incredible
He's
guy. In
amazing.
3 careers, he killed it in 3 careers. Who
He's
does that?
amazing. Nobody does that. He's
I'm a huge
extraordinary
fan
guy.
myself. Yeah.
So he was bodybuilder, wasn't he? Gold's Gym, wasn't it? When he made Mr. Olympia.
He was 7 times Mr. Universe.
Mr. Universe.
Yeah,
That's it.
and he retired at 26, I think, as like the all-time champion. Then he was like the biggest movie star.
And then he goes and does the Terminator and becomes like amazing world, I think. And then he was the governor of
California.
But you know, even before he was a bodybuilding champion, he was already a millionaire in a property business. He was very entrepreneurial as well. Yeah. He
Very
did
smart guy.
very smart. He did this in a foreign language.
And you think you've got a crazy name that no one, especially in America, can pronounce.
Yeah.
You've got a crazy accent, and so just think that achievement is really something. You're very, very philosophical as well, aren't you? I mean, you're very thoughtful. You when the question's asked, you think about. But you've obviously, but there is you can tell there's a big philosophical side to you.
Well, I did a master's in philosophy. That might help.
Well, there you go. Well done, Russell.
And I've
not much gets past me.
And the esoteric stuff of like Zen living, I've delved in. I used to live in a monastery many years ago. I've done quite a lot of things. I think you've only got one life, haven't you? So when you're interested in things, I like immersing myself. So when I'm
because you exude. I'm joking aside. You exude a certain. What the hell can I?
Feng Shui.
No, I'm not rearranging the furniture.
A good aura. Not Feng Shui.
Well,
Thank you. Amongst your ridiculous suggestions, James Blake, was Dennis's excellence with an aura.
An aura, yes.
Thank you, Dennis, for actually adding a touch of maturity.
We all have auras.
But a lot of them are. It's really interesting when guests come in. You say we all have auras. Because some of them, I look at James look at me, and then Phil Dave is normally here, but he's out doing Eurovision. Don't even go there. It's like you look at it and you go, "This is going to go well." You think, "Oh God, this is like, ooh, this is messed up. This is somebody really messed up. They shouldn't have come in."
Hey, we're all messed up, really.
I work on the basis. I work on the basis that everyone's raving mad. I actually do work on the basis that anything above and beyond that is a plus. I do. That's how I go through life. I assume everybody's raving mad. Like everyone on the road is out there to kill me. And if they don't, it's a happy day. That's really how I go through it. What was it like in a monastery? I'm fascinated.
I'm glad you asked.
Well, not much happened in monastery. So, it wasn't really rock and roll. But it was...
How long were you there for?
I was there for 4 months.
God.
What kind of monastery?
Is that in Thailand?
Tibetan. No, it was in Australia, actually. It was a Buddhist monastery in the... mountains in the, I think, western Queensland. I can't remember. It was a while ago.
So there's a hint of the Batman, just trying to, Bruce Wayne going, all right, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to make James feel
Well, I was young, but I was living quite wildly in my youth, and I thought it'd be quite good for me to do the opposite. And I was reading a book about Buddhism, And when you read a few books, I like books, but I've always thought you have to really immerse yourself. So I was living in Australia at the time, and I found out there was a monastery, and I wrote them a letter saying I want to be a monk, which was a lie, which was bad of me. You're not supposed to lie to Buddhists, but I didn't want to be a monk, but I wanted to experience it. I was young, I was like early 20s, and they said, yeah, come along, and like you can work there. So I worked in this monastery and swept, and it was really interesting. I remember one day I was sweeping, and one of the head monks came along to me and goes, no, slow down, you're doing it too quick, you need to be mindful when you, it's all, mindfulness comes from Buddhism.
Please tell me you went, paint it on.
It's all slow. It's
Sweep on, sweep on, sweep on.
It's very interesting, but it's all about being completely. I mean, mindfulness is very trendy right now, but it's a central part of Buddhism. Quite a few different sort of areas of Buddhism.
What did you do on a daily? I'm not being sarcastic. I'm really fascinated.
Well,
what the hell did you do?
I meditated a lot. I helped in the kitchen. I helped sort of sweeping up, sort of helped run the place, the monastery, but it was all very slow. So if you do things too quick, they're like, no, you're living too much in the future, trying to get it done. You should enjoy every moment. So,
see, that's a great thing. That's a great thing to try and learn, though, isn't it?
You can, once you have, learning to meditate is quite useful because, I don't meditate that much. I did it a few days ago and I hadn't done it for a couple of years, but it's a handy skill to have because it calms you, it changes the way your brain works.
But I think the thing with meditation is people have this idea of it where it's like you have to sit down, cross your legs and do a pose. You don't have to, do you? Meditation can be anything.
When you're learning it, it's quite handy to have no distractions.
Yeah.
I mean, the ultimate goal, the way that many Buddhists would see it, is to be meditating while actually interacting, while talking, while doing anything.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
But
how would you do that?
Because it's creating a state.
How can I have an intelligent right? Okay, don't go there, James. How can I have an intelligent conversation with a really interesting, engaging guest and be meditating at the same time?
It depends how you define meditation. You're defining it in the sort of closed way of imagining someone.
Because I used to do TM.
But there's different definitions of meditation. So we come down to like an argument on semantics here. So
help me out.
Just going back a step. The main thing about meditation is you start off basic, so you can start off with like your eyes shut, no noise, and just try not to dwell on the thoughts. So when a thought comes into your head, that's fine, but don't dwell on it. And that's meditation. And as you get better at it, you can start doing it while moving. Well, I mean, a lot of athletes, where they're trying to get in the zone, like if you're a tennis player and you're doing a serve, you're so focused. Actually, the way the brainwaves are working, the alpha and the beta brainwaves, are very similar to meditation. Incredibly similar.
Lots of study has gone into that. The idea of being in the zone.
Yeah,
it's the same as being like in a meditative state. Lots of like research and science goes into that. Yeah,
there's a great book, Zen and the Art of Archery, written about 70 years ago, which talked about this, and even The Inner Game of Tennis by Tim Galway, who wrote the whole Inner Game series. It's all about. It's kind of Zen in a way, kind of letting it happen. So this book about teaching tennis is like you don't try and hit the ball, you let your body hit the ball.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting kind of concept, and it's you can sort of apply that as a philosophy for life as well. So when I'm teaching someone how to do a complex move, like a complex kick or something, we learn it, then it's like then you have to just allow it to happen as opposed to forcing it.
Well, that's a big thing. Someone's always told me never force, like in golf it was
golf is perfect.
Never
example.
force the shot. Just hit the golf ball.
Yeah. And let your subconscious take over, because the subconscious is so clever and our conscious brains are so tiny and usually mess things up with our ego and other stuff, but our subconscious knows everything.
It only happened to me once in sport, which was clay pigeon shooting. I don't shoot anything live, I just don't want to. Why are you laughing? What's so funny about that?
Because of course you had a gun in your hand and you were in the zone.
I was. It's true. Well, I really...
But I can imagine, because it's intense concentration.
It's very... And when I was like trying to put it all together, stay ahead of the target, stay ahead, that... And then suddenly when I and it only happened to me once, Dan, and I let go, it was dusk, it was terrible conditions, and I just blew everything out the sky. It was effortless, and I could never recreate that moment, but it was extraordinary. It just came totally. I couldn't miss that.
You
I haven't
were
done it
in
for
the
years.
zone. Some people call it a
Completely.
flow state, but it's when your conscious mind was kind of let go and your subconscious, your body, your muscles knew what to do, and it was all aligned. And it's kind of a pseudo-spiritual experience.
It was very strange. I couldn't believe it. It was almost like I was witnessing it. I know it sounds silly, clay pigeon shooting. It's not, it's not going to change the world, but it was a weird experience.
No, because it's very precise. It was something like shooting or archery or even things like snooker or something, where you're kind of still, and golf as well, where you're still. Then it's actually, you have those instances of getting in the zone, in the flow state, more easily than you do if you're doing something with lots of different actions, like if you're dancing or doing.
See, I enjoyed the notion of clay pigeon shooting, which I haven't done for years. I really should go back to it. Was this: you either succeed or you fail. It's not like, I nearly got. I did. You either break the clay or you don't break the clay. So it's very precise. And the only person who will defeat you is yourself. And that's kind of my motto for life. And that's what I really enjoyed
This is a wonderful thing about sports. I was saying in the break, like even though I'm a gym trainer, I'm a strength coach, I much prefer sports than I do going to the gym. Because when you have sports, you have these, potentially have these moments where you're completely outwon with whatever it may be. It doesn't matter what the sport is.
Wouldn't you
But
say,
that's brilliant.
when Russ was talking about kind of letting go and hitting the clay pigeons, wouldn't you say that's what it's like to be in a meditative state all the time?
Yes.
That is
Yes.
that is what it would be like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm nowhere near there.
No, of course.
But I'm saying that's in theory, that's what it would be like.
In theory, you'd be
exactly.
in the
Yeah, good
zone
point.
24/7. You know.
You see, it was when you said you went to the monastery.
Yeah.
I was picturing myself there, seriously, and then I was thinking, as long as I was doing stuff, I would be fine. So, you want to volunteer to sweep? I'm happy to sweep up. You want somebody in the kitchen chopping veg? I'm your man. I would love all that. I love all that. But if you said, right, Russ, can you go and sit in the cell or whatever they call it? Not going to be an ensuite. No, I meant a monk's cell. I don't mean a like, prison cell. Little bit literal there, James Blake. Little bit literal. I thought, and just sit on your ass and do nothing. I've been like, oh God, no. Let me look back in the kitchen and do something. I don't mind if it's menial. Menial never bothers me. I just want to do.
Yeah, but the whole thing about a Zen, more spiritual life is you be rather than you do, because they would argue that we do, like people in the West, we do, and we should spend more time being.
I don't know what that means. If you do a Frank Sinatra gag, you're out the door.
I'm just about to say, I'm not gonna do it, don't worry.
You were so close.
I'm not going to do it. Don't worry.
Where are you on all this, Dennis?
I've never come across with anyone who spent his life on a monk. It's quite interesting to hear that. It's interesting you mentioned about mindfulness, like being mindful. That is kind of like trendy now. But I just want to hear like what is really mindfulness? Like, is it a state, or do we really have to engage in a certain activity to achieve mindfulness? Or what would you recommend for people that who actually want to practice mindfulness just every day? Like for me, I work from home, and I don't have really, I'm very limited with my physical activity because I just sit in a computer all the time. So for people like me, what would you recommend if we want to practice mindfulness the simplest way?
Well, mindfulness isn't necessarily a physical thing. It's a way of thinking, where basically it's about being present. So whenever it's quite easy not to be present nowadays because our phone goes off and there's distractions everywhere. The idea is to focus, to have complete focus on what you're doing. And like when you're here, like now, you're thinking about what we're doing now. You're not thinking, oh, I've got to press that button, or tonight I'm doing this. You're completely...
I do have to press the button.
But mindfulness is just being completely present in the moment. And when we have conversations like we are now, and we're listening to each other, that's a classic mindfulness, because we're listening and we're engaging. We're not, well, I'm not thinking about anything else. If I was, the conversation wouldn't flow very well. So and it happens internally as well. So if you're completely just, when you're on your computer working, if you completely get absorbed by that, it goes quicker, it's more enjoyable. But if you're doing it and also getting distracted by other things, that's not mindfulness. Linked to that, there's also mindful movement. So if you move, if you go for a walk, and actually don't listen to your headphones, actually feel your feet kind of walking, feel how your body, how your posture is, feel how your abs are working, be aware, like scan your body and just have a feeling of what's going on. Listen to like the birds tweeting or even the cars going past. That's being mindful. It's being completely present in your given moment, sort of living in the now. So that's kind of the best way I would describe mindfulness.
So basically, if you're working from home and you're working on your computer and you haven't got lots of tabs open, that qualifies as mindfulness.
Well, in a way. I wouldn't use that example. But
Dennis reply. Dennis, in case you don't
go
know,
for a walk in nature.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right.
Well, I do walk sometimes.
Dennis looks after the social media for Men's Radio Station, and we're very, very grateful to him. He does go and give yourself a plug, Dennis, because you never normally speak.
No, I volunteered to manage the social media because I used to work before for a PR agency, managing social media accounts. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what else? Dennis, you do many things. What else do you do?
I run a mental health blog, so that's why I volunteered here. So it's kind of aligned to what I'm doing. I'm running Psychreg, that's plugging, Psychreg. So it's like a blog, a podcast, and an open access journal.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. So just as we're coming to the end of the show, I wanted to do one more stat, which is over a third of UK adults have felt anxious or depressed because of their body image. Now, my question to the esteemed crew we have gathered here today is, what can we do about that? How can we make body image, how can we make it so not 1 in 3 UK adults are depressed over their body image? What are some things that could be done? Could we be more mindful? Could we take a more Zen-like approach and just be? Is getting in the gym and just getting fit, is that the right way to do it? I don't know, give me some ideas.
I think we should start by being honest with ourselves. So I think any kind of change starts with some self-awareness.
Okay.
So actually spending some time thinking, is this affecting me? So some people are like, no, I'm fine with body image, it doesn't affect me. But actually spend 5 minutes and really think about it. Are you happy in your own skin?
I think that's good.
I think the start of any kind of change is being aware.
So it would just be taking a couple of minutes just to sort of be...
Just have a think about it.
Just have a think about it.
I think conversations like this help, but actually so many of us just go, oh, it doesn't affect me, because they don't go deeper.
Well,
So-
I don't know, 1 in 3 UK adults. You know, we've beaten the numbers in here. There's definitely one person in here who's concerned about it. I can say I am.
But I think it's a lot more than 1 in 3. But
I think
that's
yeah.
my point.
I think it is more than 1 in 3, but I think just think about what it is you want your body image to do.
But also,
That's
I mean,
a great tip.
a few months ago, we have a psychotherapist who works on our team called Danielle Sandler. She's part of our team, our coaching team. And a few months ago, we actually asked her to create a guide, and we actually launched it yesterday. So I want to give that. It's free, completely free.
Ooh. How do people get that?
Just go to website danrobertsgroup.com, and there's a thing which says free resources, and it's completely free, and it's a whole video series, tips and insights all about how to have a more positive body image.
Loving that.
So it's danrobertsgroup.com/free. And it's called How to Love Your Body, and the psychotherapist, Harley Street psychotherapist, is Danielle Sandler, and she's been helping us for years, and she's created this free guide, and because we try to be nice, we gave it for free. So it's all available.
I'm already there.
Right.
I do have a quick question. This man on your website doing all these kicks and flips, is that you?
There's 4 different people on there.
Is it? Oh yeah, there's a girl now.
There's some are dancers. I'm one of them.
Yeah, I'm sure I saw
I'm
you.
one of them. I'm the one of the least impressive people. There's Georgia, who's a professional breakdancer. There's Pat, who's a few breakdancers, a few stunt man on there. Just friends, basically.
It's very cool when you
Which
go
one's
to...
me? Remind me, which one am I? What am I doing in this particular? Am I backflipping? Am I?
Yeah, you're backflipping.
What am I?
I think
Yeah,
you're
I
just
thought
off
that
camera,
was.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just off.
Oh, I can't believe you missed me.
But yeah, the website tries to, try and be cool.
Go to the website. Check out Dan Roberts and his friends doing all the cool stuff.
We'll promote it on social media.
Yeah. Dennis will give it a big push. So it's www.danrobertsgroup.com. There we are, and you can get your stuff, and then just look at it.
Yeah, it's a great guide. We literally launched it 24 hours ago. So
wow, well, that's rather timely.
How convenient.
We knew. We planned it.
It is almost
we planned for you to call me.
Yeah.
That was it. It's always a pleasure to welcome you. Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it, and especially because you've come miles as opposed to coming from 4 doors away. Can you believe it? Of all the things in the world, how serendipitous was that? Where are you? I'm 4 doors away. Oh, you might as well pop in.
That's what I thought.
It's utter genius.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
I hope at our home, or in the car, or in the podcast, or wherever you're listening to this, because we're everywhere. Where are we? We're on Spotify. We're on. Are we on iTunes?
We're not on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're on TuneIn. We're on Last FM. We're on YouTube. We're on
Facebook.
We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. And app soon come.
So now ask me, is social media important? Oh, gosh. I don't know, James. I just can answer that question. Anyway, thank you so much. Thanks, as always, to Boy Wonder producer James Blake. Wait for the pose. No, oh, yeah, he had to do it. Right, for rocking the decks. To Dennis, our social media genius. Thank you so much. Dan Roberts. Remember, you can look it all up on Google and everything like that. I'm what's left of Russ Kane. This is Men's Radio Station. Until we meet again, have fun.